Give Steve a fabulous, warm Fragrance Du Bois warm welcome.
Thanks, Helen. Hello, everybody. I met most of you out there and certainly had a little bit of drama. Let me just plug this power lead in, because computers, in my experience, they tend to go into standby on battery. At least they do for me. I'll tell you something funny this morning. I'm staying in near High Street, Kensington. And yesterday, I thought, I'm organised. I've got a clicker. And I got a USB in there, and I'm thinking, it won't work. Just won't work. Damn thing, put new batteries in it. So I've been out and I've bought one. You see, these are a bit identical. And I don't know why, but today, it actually dawned on me. So I've got two now anyway. So what we're going to do today is have a little chat. In fact, see if I can work without those. We're going to have do you want to hear the story of the hat?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the hat, the thing about the hat, right, is my wife bought you ever use Vinted? Yeah. My wife bought this cow print hat on Vinted because we've got kids. We keep all the stuff from when the kids were young, and it's all this cow print stuff. And she bought it for my daughter, who's recently moved out. And I took ownership of it. Anyway, so my daughter was having none of that a few weeks later when she came around. So I ended up buying that one. And I wear it quite a bit. And then my wife says, when we go out to a club or anything like that, take that hat off. I say, no, I'm not taking it off. And every time, within about half an hour, I've got about 5, 6 people say, oh, I love your hat. So now I do it just to pee her off. Do you know what I mean? So what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so you can get to know me, and then we're going to find out a little bit about you guys, and then we're going to go through some of your questions, and I'm going to identify who the culprits of those questions are, okay? And so this is going to be interactive. I'm not going to be doing all the talking. Is that okay? Yeah? And what we need to, I was just telling Helen, I woke up this morning at about 4:30, couldn't get back to sleep again. Yeah, so you guys are going to help me keep the energy up. Yeah, we've got to do that. Yeah, so you got to talk to me and I've got to keep you engaged. You've got to keep me engaged. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Say yes, Steve. Yes. Okay. Good. I was going to make you all stand up and jump on your chairs and do that, but nah. It's not a Tony Robbins event. Has anybody ever been to any personal development events or anything like that? Yeah? What have you been to?
Christian we used to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the sort of speaker or?
It was Clive Christian himself.
Oh, him himself,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
And his daughter also.
Yeah. And was it good?
Amazing.
Good. Okay. And who else has been to some sort of? Where have you been?
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza. Yeah. So good friend of mine is a very successful motivational speaker called Peter Sage, and he goes to. Do you know Pete? Yeah.
It's not personal.
You know who he is? Yeah. I've known Pete Sage 21, 22 years. But I've spoken at his events in Tenerife.
So my friend Jamie Rowe. Did you meet Jamie Rowe?
Maybe. I spoke at
The last one in
Millionaire
Tenerife.
Business School in Tenerife. Yeah, I compared the last two and did a bit of keynote speaking, so I may well have met
Yeah,
him.
my friend Jamie Rowe, he spoke at the event.
Yeah, cool. What's your name?
My name's Rachel.
Rachel, lovely to meet you. Okay, so I am from a place in South Yorkshire called Doncaster. Yeah, but just keep that between us. So I grew up in a very, very ordinary background, and there's a point to telling you all this, and we're going to circle back to this sort of stuff, because really, what we got here, we call this, I've got 2 talks that I do generally. One is called the Attitude Keynote, and I think you'd agree with me that our attitude is everything, yeah? And I've also got another one which is more sales-oriented, called High Conscious Sales Mastery. You notice speakers and everyone, they always call it mastery, don't they? Yeah? And there's a point to calling it mastery, because you never reach the point. It's an ongoing journey. You never reach that day where you think, I know everything. In fact, I think it was Socrates or somebody clever like that said the moment of enlightenment is when you realize you know nothing. You all heard that before, yeah? So what I've tried to do here is combine some of that and with my story, and we're going to hear from you about your stories and experience. We go through these questions. Is that all okay? Good. So when I left school, I got, what was it? 9 A's when I left school for my exams, yeah? Absent. Right, I didn't like school. I wasn't very attentive at school. I was attentive. I tell you what, I was attentive to the things I was interested in, but we didn't have all these acronyms and labels when I went to school, yeah? So I had my birthday last weekend, yeah, so I was 61, so guess when I went to school, like in the 1970s, yeah? So we didn't have all those labels. I would have been severe every 5-letter, 4-letter acronym you can imagine, yeah? If I wasn't interested in something, I'm looking out the window and I'm messing about. In fact, I remember one time, me and some of my co-conspirators or partners in crime, we were in a science lesson with a teacher we endearingly called Fat Neck. Guess what? Guess why? And another teacher came in and he said, Quayle, Mohammed, Smith, boss's office. And there were about 4 or 5 other teachers in there who we'd really peed off. And he just said, you can't learn the easy way, you learn the hard way. Touch your toes. And it was 6 of a cane across the backside each. There you go. That was school for me. So when I left school, I went on one of these. Has anybody heard of a YTS? Yeah? Do you know what it stands for? Young, Thick and Stupid. So I went on one of those for about 6 months at the Doncaster Council. But what I had done at school, has anybody ever had I don't know whether kids have them nowadays, a Saturday job? Yeah? What did you do? Let's hear about 1 or 2 Saturday jobs. Pardon?
Worked in Top Shop.
You worked in Top Shop, retail. So that was probably quite a good grounding for this, yeah?
15.
You were 15, yeah? What else? Pardon?
My auntie's butchers.
Your auntie's butchers. Does that link up with perfume?
I mean, it could.
I bet this smells better, that's for sure.
It does.
Yeah. So, well, talking about smell, I worked on a fish market in a place called Mexborough. Has anybody ever heard of that place? It's between Barnsley and Sheffield. It's definitely at Knightsbridge, this place. But what I didn't realise at the time is, because you don't, do you, at the time, you don't realise the life lessons that you get in. So I worked for this woman called Mary Hawksworth, and she was what's known as a fishwife, yeah, because she was the wife of a fishmonger, but she was a character, let me tell you. And we'd stand, I was about 15 at the time myself, and at that time I smoked, and she smoked. And believe it or not, she smoked on the fish stall. She'd stand at the side, I'm having a fight. So you'd see somebody walking down. This is really interesting. You'd see somebody walking down who was a regular customer, and she'd say, oh, I can't bloody stand this guy. You serve him. And she'd go and have a cigarette. As soon as they got within earshot, she'd go, hello, love, it's lovely to see you. You know, that type of thing. And then as soon as they're gone, she'd say, I hope it chokes him, you know. A real character, like somebody off the TV. And your interaction with people. I didn't realise at the time then, I was in sales. And I was doing stuff like, you know, you'd serve somebody some fish. I say, oh, do you want some of that as well? Do you want some of that? I didn't realise I was upselling. It's only when you look back, you know. And then what I did, a year or 2 later, when I was about 18 or 17 or 18, because I couldn't get a job after this Young, Thick and Stupid, they didn't want me anymore, and I was ever so sad, and I felt ever so rejected. Thank God they didn't. I didn't know, again, I didn't know at the time, by saying there's no job at the end of this, they were doing me the biggest favour in the world, because I could have ended up like them. So in that humdrum job, reading tachographs for vehicles. So I set up my own business. Guess what I did? I sold fish. Good guess, yeah, because it's all I knew how to do. So I don't know how I did it. I got £1,000 together, spent half of it on a van. It was 2-tone colours, blue and rust, yeah. And And I drove this van to a place called Hull. You've heard of Hull, haven't you? It's not that far from Lincoln. So I drove this van to a place called Hull, and I bought a load of fish. I bought a white coat, some weighing scales and knives, and I went knocking on doors around Doncaster. If you don't know Doncaster, it's a nucleus, and surrounded by it were mining villages. This is in like early 1980s, yeah? So I started knocking on doors, and I sold all this fish. And I'm at home at night with my parents, and I'm counting all this money. And it's fantastic. And I drove back to Hull the next day, and I bought more fish, and I came back, and I knocked on more doors in different mining areas, and I sold that as well. So again, I don't realise it at the time, but I'm back in sales. Make sense? Yeah? Speak to me. Say yes, Steve. Yes, Steve. Okay. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is change, because it links into decisions. You know, have you ever heard anybody like Tony Robbins or Pete Sage, if you watch him, he talks about a thing called certainty a lot. Is anybody aware of that word? Yes? Yes? Somebody tell me what it means. What does it mean to you? Certainty.
Something that's dead set, something that's going to happen.
It's certain. You know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know what's going to happen next week. Somebody once told me of this sad couple who were retired, who sat down, right? They sat down once a year and they wrote out or used a computer, I don't know what the hell they did, but every meal they were going to have for the next year. That is an addiction to certainty, right? You know? Do you think today we live in an uncertain world?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, we do. I have never been, like I said, I was 61 last weekend. You can say happy birthday belatedly, Steve. Yeah. So in my 61 years here, on this, what I would call plane of consciousness, I've never known so much uncertainty and so much rapid change. So that puts people in a very low vibrational state. You understand? Do you know why it does that? Because it raises, have you heard of a stress hormone called cortisol? Yeah? And when we're in fight or flight, when we're wandering, then our cortisol levels go through the roof. So we need to learn to bring those down. Yeah? But certainty. So things change. And what changed? I built up a great business, and I was going to the pub and meeting up with my friends who'd stayed on and passed all their exams at school. And they got their A-levels, and they were working in the banks and whatnot. I'm earning 3-4 times as much money as them. And then, you know, like an event that somebody else causes, but it has a direct impact on you and your life. Does anybody remember Margaret Thatcher? Yeah. Was anybody alive when Margaret? Yeah. So she went head to head with a guy called Arthur Scargill, who was the trade union president for the miners, and they all went out on strike. And guess who all my punters were? Miners' wives. It was like switching that light off. Boom, because they were all skint. They were all broke, you see. So I had to rethink the game plan. So I naturally transitioned and became a financial advisor working for the Prudential. It's only because I knew somebody. So again, I'm back in sales. And this was back in the day. I don't know whether anybody, because you're all a lot younger than me, I think, but I don't know whether anybody remembers, there was a time where people would pay their life insurance, not always through the bank, but they'd pay it to a fellow who collected did your parents do that? Yeah. Man from the Pru coming round. Yeah, that was me. Wow. Yeah, that was me. And again, so back in sales, you went on a basic sales training course to Manchester, I think it was. And funny thing happened. Because I'm not interested in administration and stuff like that, my collections were all out of sync. My accounting wasn't very good. I wasn't nicking the money, by the way. It was just, I'm not very good at that. But what I was good at, my manager called me in one day. They wanted you to sell 3 what we call props, which was short for proposal forms every week, yeah? And once I've got my head around this, I'm selling 10. Guess why? Because I had an epiphany. I discovered a word that I'd never, ever, ever heard before. It begins with C. It's not the one you're thinking, by the way. Can you guess what it was? No, we've had that one. But thank you. I discovered that a lot later.
Confusion.
Change.
Commission. Let's write it down so we don't forget it. I discovered this word called commission. Do you get commission?
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is commission good?
Money.
It's money. It's extra money. So the thing is, being in sales, we have literally, to a degree, depending what industry we're in and depending where we're at, we have a degree to write our own ticket to increase our money every week, every day, every week, every month, over and above what our basic is, yeah, to a degree. And that's what commission and bonuses does, because you're bringing extra money into that company, so that company rewards you by sharing a bit more of that with you. Make sense? So I discovered this. So instead of doing the 3 a week, I'm doing 10 a week. Sometimes I'm doing 15 or 20 a week. And my manager was a guy called Jeff Matthews. He called me in. I thought I was going to get a bollocking about my collections again. And he said, I just want to know what you're doing. I said, what do you mean? He says, I've never known anyone like you. So I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, just selling. Because most guys didn't like selling. They'd do the collections. They were spot on with all the numbers. And then business day was a Thursday. You had to be in at 10 o'clock with your collections, with your money, pay it into the bank, give them the chit, and also with your new business. And those guys would be round on a Wednesday night, I guarantee you, begging existing clients to sign up. Will you do one, please? I'm going to get in trouble tomorrow, that sort of thing, yeah? I've already got 15, 20 of these signed up because I was motivated by that commission, because the commission meant money. Not very good at spelling either, by the way, or writing. In fact, I got worse at writing since we've just been using computers all the time. But that's what motivated me. That's why I was good at it, you know, because I was interested in earning more money. Well, I was interested in earning more money because I could buy more things, because I'm very materialistic. I was then and I still am now, and it's just who I am, you know. So that's what I was interested in. And I'll tell you a funny story. Can you imagine this? So there was a guy there called Ivor Williams. He had been in his day. He'd been an agent and a collector, and he'd been the top salesman. So they promoted him to what they called the rep. So every 3 months or so, he would come and he'd work with you to up your sales, you see. So we went to this place. Has anyone heard of a place called Bentley in Doncaster? No? This is a mining village, right? But it was one of the lower grade mining village, not particularly posh, kind of places where you wipe your feet on the way out, if you know what I mean. But nice people, though, salt of the earth. So we go to this house as an existing customer, right? And he sells her a bit more, has a cup of tea and a chat. It's like, what's the woman's name next door? You all heard of cold calling? We used to do loads of cold calling, right? I don't know, is it legal now, cold calling? Was it an invasion of, right? So let's just say it's a long time ago. It's Mrs. Smith. So this guy, I want you to get a picture of this guy. He's got a suit and tie on, he's got a belly, got a bit of hair at each side like that, and those, you know, half-moon spectacle glasses, yeah, on his nose, and a clipboard with his proposal forms on. That's all that was on them. But he looked very, very official, right? So it's Mrs. Smith next door. So we go next door, and he knocks on the door like it's a CID at 6 o'clock in the morning. This woman comes to the door. She's, yes. He goes, Mrs. Smith. She's, yes. She's crapping herself. He goes, Ivor Williams, divisional office. I need 5 minutes of your time. And he just walked straight past her like that, down the hallway. And I'm like, can you imagine? And he looks back. He goes, come on, kid. So I follow him. I walk past her. And we sat down. Eventually, she comes into the front room. And he's sat there like that. And she looks at me and she goes, what's up with your mate? He goes, I thought I could hear the kettle. She goes, oh, you want a cup of tea, do you? He goes, yeah, have you got any chocolate biscuit? Digestives as well? Yeah, okay. Do you know what? We came out of there. You heard of a thing called building rapport with people? Yeah? What's it mean, building rapport? Connection, alignment, yeah? Getting on the same wavelength. Half an hour later, we came out of there with a filled-in proposal form for a savings plan for the kids and another one for some extra life insurance for her and her husband, right? £10 a month on each one. Not a lot of money, even back then. Guess what? When I went a month later, bearing in mind how cheeky this guy was, cheeky soft, yeah? I went back a month later to collect the premiums. Guess what she said to me? She goes, where's Ivor? They liked him. So if you can get people to like you and you can build instant rapport and connection with people, would that be a good thing? Yeah? So what we're going to get into your questions in a minute or two, but I hope you found that interesting because there's background and stories. In fact, anybody heard of this guy called Bob Proctor? Yeah? I worked with Bob Proctor for a number of years, knew him for about 23 years before he passed away. And in fact, it's like I still know him now because we've got YouTube and Instagram and his team still work and it's like he's still around, you know? But he taught me an awful lot about sales and about relationship building and stuff like that, you know? So I want to sort of hear from you how you, maybe just one or two or three of you, if anybody's brave, volunteer, stand up even maybe, and just tell us how you engage a customer. How do you build rapport? Because this is a different new experience for me because most sales teams that I've trained, I used to work with Siemens and they were selling a B2B, it was crap actually, it was a voicemail solution at the time. But they were selling that. And I've worked with other companies that do other things that are more B2B or B2C over the phone and investments. But I've never worked with a perfume company before or retail company. So I'd be very interested to hear from one or two of you who are brave enough to stand up before I pick on you. How you build connection and how you build rapport. Because you've not got much time, have you, in that environment? Rachel, you're smiling.
So how do I build rapport? Is the question. So when I do quite a lot of traffic stopping, to be honest. So I will stand in front of a customer. Well, I used to laugh and have nipples actually because if someone was walking towards me, I'd actually step in front of them so they couldn't walk past me.
Yeah.
But then as I'd step in front of them, I'd say, "Hi, how are you today?" Ask them a question how they are. Then I'd say something polite like, I love your outfit, you look amazing today. Just general questions first before, can I help you or whatever. So just normal conversation. When I feel that they've linked with a bit of rapport, then I'd say, go into whatever it is that I'm selling, oh, have you heard of Fragrance Du Bois, or have you got a new favourite fragrance, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But I'd start by just having a normal conversation.
When you said traffic stopping, I thought you meant in the middle of Brompton Road or something. Shoot, that's a bit dangerous. Give her a hand. Good. That is brilliant. The only thing that I would change in that from what I heard is, do you ever get these cold calls on the phone? The guy who tells you, the PPI guy who's telling you that you can get up to 10 grand for that accident that you never actually had. That one. He rings all of us, that guy, doesn't he? He's really busy. But the worst thing to do is when they ring up and go, hello, Stephen, how are you today? That makes me cringe, right? So I'd still ask people how they are, but I'd be more inclined to do it in a more casual manner. Like, hey, how are we doing? Look, do you get what I mean? To move them in, not that just sort of but brilliant, You've got to do that. You've got to step out and engage. So how many people would you say on a daily basis, if you talk to 100 people, would you talk to 100 people on a day? Easily. Okay, but let's, 100's a nice round number. If you talk to 100 people on a day, irrespective of how many sales you make at this point of the conversation, how many of those people are actively looking to buy some perfume or fragrance, or how many are just sort of walking through aimlessly because it's raining outside, or they've come to buy some toys for the kids in another department? What would you say the ratio, the split is?
I think in Arsenal it's probably like 50-50. Yeah, we get
Really?
We get
That's
a lot
quite
of
good.
traffic going to car parks, other stores and stuff, but yeah, generally it's about half of it.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's quite high.
Quite high.
70-30 for us in Selfridges London. 70-30, 30% coming from fragrance, 70% tourism.
Okay. Right, nice simple word for you. So what that shows, intent. They intend to buy something. So I was telling Elliot earlier, I used to live, this is way before the FDB days, yeah? I used to live in sort of 2004 to 2009. I lived in a place called Nice in the south of France, yeah? You ever been on holiday and you go, wouldn't it be nice to live here? Well, in about 2001, 2002, 2002 actually, when my son, who I was just on the phone trying to get the technical help, who was absolutely no use whatsoever, him, Ziggy, he was born, and we wanted to go somewhere sunny, but we didn't want to fly and take all the baby paraphernalia and sterilising stuff, so we decided to drive to the south of France, and that's where we were in Saint-Tropez, and we said, oh, wouldn't it be nice to live here? 2 years later, we had a villa just outside of Nice, and we were living down there. And I was really into, I'm sure you've all heard of Creed, yeah? And again, this is long. What's that one that's flying for them at the moment that Lucius is hot on the tails of? Aventus, yeah. This is before that. This is stuff like the Vetiver, Green Irish Tweed, Millesium, Silver Mountain Water. Yeah, I used to. And there was a shop in the centre of Nice, and high-end perfume shop, and I used to go in there purposely with the intent of buying 1 or 2 bottles, and I'd usually come out with 5, something like that, because they'd you try this one, Monsieur Coelho, you know. And that's what it's all about. So would you say that if somebody comes in and says, so where's that bottle of perfume of mine? Have you nicked it, Elliot? If you liked it so much, or did I put it back in my bag? I've been into this one for years and years and years, 10 years. So, Sarah, yeah, I love it. So if I came in purposely to buy that, I've just got the intention of coming in to buy a bottle of this because I'm low on it, yeah? How many instances do you actually get to upsell them and sell them some of that or some of that, the Harrods Rue Dude? Does it work every time?
No, not every time.
What's the ratio, do you think?
I'd go 70-30 again. Because I think if they've got the intent to come in and buy something, their mind's kind of set on that, they know what they want. Unless they are kind of, willing to splash a bit of cash, and maybe the wife's there and you can tempt her into buying something for herself. So
yeah.
It's very situational on what they're here for. If they just, because we get a lot of men that are like, I've been sent here by my wife, I need this, and there's no chance of getting them to buy anything else.
Yeah.
And then you do have ones, like you say, where they come in to buy a bottle and they end up leaving with 3 or 4, sometimes more.
Cool. I was at this guy's house. I think I told you this. So there's a guy that I've become friends with recently. He lives near to off that A46 road from Newark going towards Lincoln, a village called Winthorpe, and he lives in this place called Winthorpe House. You can Google it. It's a proper 17th century old manor house, this place. It's amazing. He bought it 30 years ago, this guy, Wes, from, have you heard of a band from back in the day called the Monkees? Yeah, so it was the drummer of this band, and we'll get back to that in a second. It was the drummer of this band, the Monkees. He had this house, a guy called Mickey Dolan's. So first time I went to Wesley's house, I'm like, oh, can I use your bathroom, please? Yeah, bathroom's over there. Now, I tell you, his downstairs bathroom, one of them, is probably the size of most of our bedrooms. It's huge. You could put a double bed and a sofa and everything in there. So I went to the loo, I want to wash my hands. What do I notice on the side? Bottle of that. I'm like, wow, I know this company. I know Johnny. I know Nicola. And he's like, no way. Yeah, incredible. Funny thing about he was showing me. I don't know whether did I tell you about the signatures? No. So when you go in there, there's this massive staircase, and underneath there's a door that goes underneath the staircase, and there's literally a safe as big as a person in there, and then he's got all this wooden paneling. It's like cream coloured, and it's because it's like grade, I think it's grade 1 listed building. When you do anything, even on the inside, you have to do it right, you know. So we got some old sort of craftsman painter to come in, and he said, God, he said, they must have had some parties here back in the day. He says, because that door there under the stairs, it had David Bowie's signature on it. It had like Ronnie Wood, Keith Moon from The Who. Had all these rock stars, Mark Bolan, I think, whoever, you know, really famous rock stars. He says, and when this painter came in, he said he painted all over them. Can you imagine? So, there you go. Right, let's get into, is there any chance I could have some more coffee? Is there any, please, that'd be amazing. Let's get into these questions for a little while. We'll find out who sent them in. Is this going to work? First questions. Here we go. Oh, cheers, Helen. Hi, Steve. Happy Thursday. So Helen sent me this on a Thursday. Please see below a list of the areas where the team would love some help. Okay. Right. Who wrote this one? This is bullet. It doesn't say who it was, you see. So I'm going to find out who the culprits are. I would like to bring up the subject for Steve to help with overcoming/dealing with some of the customer's objections. For example, price point, lack of similar sizes, etc. Thank you so much. Who's guilty of that one? What's your name, dear?
Corinne.
Pardon?
Corinne.
Corinne. Okay. I'm dealing with a Corinne at the moment in Spain, actually. She's French. Yes, yes. Are you French?
Yes.
Oui. Est-ce que tu parles français? Oui. Yeah. Not, but probably a lot better than I can. Funny thing is, I was saying earlier that I do speak sort of conversational French. I'd hate to do this in French, or I'd hate to try and do a business deal in French because I'd definitely get walked all over. But conversational French. I went for leçons intensives in Paris for 1 week, and I went 1-to-1. And I get into this building. It was, you know Paris, yeah. You know where the huge Galerie Lafayette is, yeah. So this was on fairly close to that region, Avenue Poissonnière, something like this. There's a Hard Rock Cafe there, so it was up there. And it was absolutely boiling hot in this building. And because it was a listed building, they weren't allowed to put aircon units on it. And it was the middle of summer, and it was really, really hot. So I said something to the professor who came into the room. Don't forget, we're just 1-to-1. I said something in English, and he yelled at me at the top of his voice, like telling a naughty schoolboy off. And I had no idea what he said. But there was definitely something we'll talk about later called a transference of feeling. I understood what he said. And he basically was saying, when you're in this building, you do not speak any English because it's immersion. You say, that's how you learn something really, really well, is to immerse yourself in it, free of distractions, and also repetition. Yeah, all behavior is habitual. How do you get a habit? By doing it again, all the time. Again, 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 again. How do you break a habit? You do something else in its place. Again, 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 again. Does that make sense? Yeah? So, the subject. Okay, so objections. What are objections, really?
Sometimes not always a verbal objection. It's more a body language objection.
Okay.
So they try the fragrance. You know they really love it.
Yeah.
And then obviously some customers are already aware passport because they look online, they have an idea. Some don't. So it's so many variety of
Variables.
people. So I sometimes feel I know the price is an objection for them because although they really love it, they can't quite afford it yet. So I always give them a sample or just to encourage when they leave the store. It's like a reinvite. So because I've noticed the spending power is not as strong.
What now, today,
Yes.
as
People
to
are
when?
more conscious of how much they spend.
Yeah,
Hence why I ask for smaller size. Are we going to have smaller size? Because
Sure.
now I know. Because a lot of them say, oh, do you do a 50 mil? Do you do a 30 mil? Because 100 mil maybe.
yeah,
Obviously,
I understand.
too much for them.
Yeah,
So it's just, sometimes it's how to break that barrier, that negativity for
Yeah.
their part, not realizing actually it's a really good value product. It lasts you a long time. Per day it probably costs you 20 pence the time you finish the bottle.
sure.
It's how to use that.
As opposed to something cheaper, but you got to keep spraying on and on and on, and you've gone through it in a week. Yeah, I understand. It's interesting though, that thing about people's consciousness, right? Because do you remember back in when was it, 2008 crash? Yeah, there was all the subprime banking mortgage. It brought everything down worldwide, and I'm sure the governments. I'm certain they go to one of these high-end marketing agencies in Soho, where they all wear black T-shirts and carry messenger bags, yeah? Media guys. I've dealt with those guys before, and it cost me a lot of money in another project, which is another story. But the thing is, I'm sure they go to one of these agents and say, right, we're engineering a crash because we've got to reset everything, because I believe that's what happens. I don't know about you guys, yeah? But what should we call it? And what did they call the one in 2008? They called it the credit crunch. You remember? They called it a credit crunch, yeah? That's what they called it. They've called the most recent one the cost of living crisis. Yeah, and it's on the television all the time. And it's, you know what I said a minute ago about repetition and immersion? It's going in. And I bumped into somebody who shall remain nameless. He's quite a well-known guy, and I sort of know him. And I know he's a, you know what I mean by a toff? Yeah, this guy is a toff. He's a titled guy. And he got so, I was in Chelsea, and he got at the time, I think that it was Netto. Do you remember Netto, that budget supermarket, those yellow bags? It's like, the equivalent. It was cheaper actually than Lidl and Aldi, if you remember Netto. And I know for a fact this guy lives in a flat that's like a mansion that was bought by his family in the Fulham Road, and I know that he's got a trust fund, and he gets, wait for this, he gets 30 grand a month for all of his life for doing nothing. For doing absolutely nothing. And his family's loaded and they've got a stately home somewhere. And he's got these Netto carrier bags in his hand. And I said, hey, Charlie, how you doing? And he's like, oh, yeah, very good, very good. That's what. I said, what are you doing shopping at Netto? He goes, wow, credit crunch. He says, we've all got to tighten our belts, haven't we? That guy couldn't spend him that money. But that's how it goes in. He's gone from shopping probably in the food hall next door to where you guys are in Harrods to shopping at Netto. Because he's been brainwashed by the media that he's skint. Yeah, he lives in this amazing place. His family's got more money than sense. And he's got 30 grand a month for the trust fund for the rest of his life as a salary. Yeah, why has he gone into Netto? Because he's been brainwashed. Yeah, he's been influenced. Back to the objections. Anybody heard of a guy called Brian Tracy? No? You should have, right? I'm going to give you some people a bit later on who you should follow, study, books you should read, stuff like that. Because like I said, right, You're not going to come away from here like mega sales superstars. This is a process. It's a journey, yeah, and you're learning on the job every day. What you do, the one thing that I hope you come away from this with today is awareness, because you're either aware of something or you're ignorant of it. So it's polar opposites. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Yeah. Yes, Steve. Yes, Steve. Good. So Brian Tracy he's in the same, you put him in the same sort of box or pigeonhole as somebody like Bob Proctor, and he's more sales and business oriented, yeah, and he's probably in his 80s now, and he's not been very well lately, but he's an unbelievably good guy. I've met him a few times when I've been to his seminars, and he's one of the quintessential American, he's from California, sales trainers, yeah, he's a really smart, in fact, when I went to this guy's seminar, the first time it was in Mayfair somewhere. I thought I knew a lot. I was reading all the books. I used to be what's known as a personal development junkie. You understand what that means? Yeah. So before we used iPods and that, I was still using cassette tapes, and then we got CDs. If I didn't do it at home, I'd get out of the house and I'd drive in my car for 2 or 3 hours just to listen to Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins or somebody like that. Because I got, like, if I didn't do it for one day, I felt like I was becoming dumb. You know, I read about Sylvester Stallone once, you know, when he was doing the Rambo and the Rocky films. Like, it was huge, wasn't it? It was, and he said if he didn't go to the gym, if he missed one day, he felt all his muscles were disintegrated. It was purely psychological, because they weren't, because it's impossible for that to happen. So I was really into this, and so I thought I knew a lot, right? I really thought I knew a lot. And I went to this seminar with this Brian Tracy guy, and it was amazing, and I met him, and I bought a set of DVDs, and he signed them for me and said something nice to me, shook hands, you know, all of that. We'd have done a selfie nowadays, but I came out of there and I felt like I knew nothing, because this guy knew so much. So he's definitely one person I would encourage you to follow, yeah? He wrote a book he was written a lot of books, actually. One of his books he wrote, actually, is called a book called Eat That Frog. Has anyone ever heard of that book? Yeah? Yeah? It's a metaphor. What it means is I'm the world's worst at procrastination, yeah? And especially stuff which is confrontational, admin-oriented, stuff I don't like doing. I'll find any excuse not to do it, yeah? And I'll even do housework to keep myself busy. Because if you're busy and you're doing stuff and you actually feel, right, I've tidied that up, I've done that, and I've prepped dinner for tonight when Dion comes in and all that stuff, you feel productive and busy, and that gives you a dopamine hit. Does that make sense? Yeah? Whereas actually the stuff that you really should have done, you've swept it under the carpet. And then I get crap off the missus later. Have you done that? Well, no, not really. But what Brian Tracy says is there's usually, so what I want to do here, there's usually 6, could be a bit less, could be a bit more, but on average, there are 6 core objections around every deal, every offer, every sales proposition. Make sense? Yes, Steve? Yes, Steve. What we did say about energy, yeah? So, what we want to do is identify what yours are. So number 1's price, yeah? Then we're going to talk about these. Price. This is not cheap gear, is it? No. I can't remember how much.
695.
How much?
£695.
Yeah, when I first started buying it was about 400. It's gone up. Must be the credit crunch. Must be the cost of living crisis has put the price up. Yeah, you know. So what other than price, guys? Size. Size matters. Okay, size. Okay. So we got price, size. What else might I object to or raise an objection for if I was your customer?
Understanding the quality.
Okay, so I would call that quality/integrity. Yeah? Do you think the integrity of a brand is important? Yes or yes? Yeah? Okay. So here we go. Quality integrity brand. Do you feel that? So here's another ratio question. So out of every 100 customers for you guys, how many of those would be returning customers? Do you think? You know, repeat customers, people who've already used the brand, know the brand. About half. That's not bad, is it?
Especially now with social media.
Yeah.
People, you know, it's on there, it's out there, they're intrigued by it.
Yeah. I'm one of those people, but about a year ago, so I'm not into this Instagram bollocks at all, you know. Now, I find it really, actually, it's quite entertaining, you know, some of it. And then what's good about it is it serves you up the stuff that he knows you like. So I like motorsports, I like motorcycles, I like watches, jewelry, clothes, perfume, boxing, martial arts. I told you I was materialistic. So that's all it shows up on my feed. So I see FDB coming up all the time. And I see other stuff, and then it says, liked by Fragrance Du Bois as well. It's crazy, isn't it, how it works? Do you feel that those returning customers feel that they've got some sort of relationship with the brand? Yeah. How does that work? Say again? Loyalty, brand loyalty. Yeah? Interesting. What else apart from brand loyalty as a relationship?
Working there, familiar face. You know, you served them before. You might have given them a sample to try of another fragrance. They come back, and you know, so it's them recognising you as well as the representative to the brand. I think.
Yeah.
There's one more thing that we can link it with loyalty. Actually, is the lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can guess from the people who are wearing Fragrance Du Bois, they are living in certain lifestyle, especially with some ranges of our collection.
Yeah.
So we can link it even to the lifestyle.
Yeah.
If I can consider what I'm seeing, so Steve Q is wearing Sahara, that means you are living in equality.
Thank you.
But also it's very important the customer service, how to deal with the customer.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
The service, yeah.
I believe people buy into people.
Yeah.
That's
A million percent.
that argument, yeah, I know.
And you know what you just said there about recognizing people. So I at some point when I was fishmongering, I worked in a wine bar in a place called Bawtry. And that was during the miners' strike. And this was so busy, this wine bar, because they had loads of coppers on secondment from London staying at old RAF barracks. I nearly said bollocks then, barracks. Told you I was tired. And so every night was a Friday night for us, you know. But the regulars, it's like, come in, oh, John, pint of that, of people's name. I've noticed nowadays, especially in a lot of pubs, especially in London, because it's such a transient society, even if you go in every day and it's the same guy behind the bar, there's never any recognition. It pees me off that. You're coming in, do you know what I mean? You're coming in, spend money, and they don't actually recognise that fact because they don't think further than you're actually paying their wages. Because if we didn't go in, there would be no job, there'd be no wages, they'd be on the dole. Yeah, they don't think so. And I love it when people remember my name. That's because I can't remember it half the time myself, so I need to be reminded. Yes, Steve. That's the reason that I ask you to do that, so I can remember my name. But no, seriously, if you recognise people, oh, it's a while since I've seen you, you know, all that sort of stuff, straight away it makes people feel good. What we don't realise, I'm going to get into later, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but we'll repeat it because repetition's good, is if you can raise somebody's level of self-esteem and make them feel good, right, then they're more inclined to buy from you. Does that make sense? If they feel good about being around you, they're more inclined to buy from you than somebody if you're indifferent to them. I went into years and years and years ago, I think it was in Nottingham, something like that. We went with that, going back to that word, intent, right? Me and my wife, we needed to buy a vacuum cleaner. We absolutely needed it. So it was what I would call a distressed purchase, because I mean, who the hell wants to buy a vacuum cleaner, right? But we needed to buy one because ours was broken. So we went into, it was like Curry's PC World or something like that. at the time, and these so-called salespeople, they were like, hiding in the corners like that, keeping well out of the way, having their own private little conversations. And then he's like, "Oi!" One comes over, and he's so indifferent, so uninterested, so like nonchalant. I said to Dion, I says, "We're going. I ain't buying. Even if he says you can have that for half price, I'm not buying that off you, mate. Do you understand? Yeah? No way." And we went somewhere else, and I can't remember where it was, but the guy was a polar opposite. He knew everything about it. He asked us how big the house was, how often we clean, not as often as we should do, all that. But he was actually quite passionate about a vacuum cleaner. Don't know what his hobbies were. But so you buy off him. So it makes a massive difference because it sparks that connection. Yeah? Okay. So what else? We got price. We've got size. How do we overcome these then? Price and size.
Well, you talk about the quality as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The price, which is what you said,
But
like,
we don't, excuse me, we don't do this in 50 mil, do we?
We do.
Yeah.
Do we? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we do.
Okay, which ones don't we do in 50, in the smaller sizes?
We don't do Lucius at the moment in a 50 ml size. So most of our frequencies only come in 100 ml. There's only a couple. But my way of getting around that is that there's always a very, very small amount extra for double the amount.
Right, okay, that's a good point. I didn't know that. So you get a little bit extra, do you? Yeah.
Well, a 50 ml would be 495, is that correct? And then the 100 ml is 695, so it's only £200 extra for double the amount.
For double
So that's
the
why I
amount.
use that to sell the larger size.
Good.
It's always better value for money. So mil for mil, this is the best, most affordable way to buy.
She's doing my job for me. I love that. I love it when that happens. No, thank you. I didn't know that. So what a great point. Yeah. So that's then down to a thing called value, isn't it? You're getting a load extra value. So you actually effectively, if you're getting, you're effectively getting 200 quid's worth free, aren't you? That's one way to frame it to people. Yeah. It's all about how you put things over. Has anybody looked at NLP ever? No? Yeah? Neuro-linguistic programming, yeah? It's just, a lot of it's BS. A lot of it's like what I would call common sense, but some of it's really good. And they talk about framing and reframing a lot of the time. So it's how you put something over, the framework with which you communicate a message to somebody. Because sales is all about communication, articulating a message to somebody. What else then? We got price, we got size. So how do we deal with that size thing other than that? Is there any other way around that you're getting, almost twice as much for just a bit more money? What if I've only got 500 quid in my pocket?
Value.
Value?
In the sense of seeing what you can do with the 500 quid.
Yeah.
Making something work out of it.
Okay. Anybody else? Objections on price, size?
With the price, I think sometimes you're not necessarily selling the product. It's more how it's going to make you feel. So sometimes there's no price on that. So if you're selling something, a feeling, like if you're wearing some really expensive fragrance, how's this going to make you feel? You're going to stand taller, you're going to wear better clothes, you're going to speak better, rather than just wearing your cheap crap, you're going to feel different, you're going to act different. So sometimes it's about selling a feeling rather than the actual product itself.
Give her a hand. I'm going to go and sit there, and you're going to... So what I was going to say to you earlier, and I forgot, is I might teach you something. I hope I do, and I hope I create some awareness. But you've got all the answers inside of you, right? And somebody like me, you try to bring them out. Like, anybody like boxing? Yeah. Who do you like? Who's your favourite?
It's got to be Anthony Joshua.
AJ, yeah, I like him. He seems like a really nice guy. I like all of these English boxers, though. Yeah, Tyson Fury, Daniel Dubois. There's a new guy out called, he's only 20. I was listening to him. Very smart guy, actually, for his age. He's 20 years old, called Moses Itauma. Anyone seen him? He's going to be heavyweight champion of the world, this guy, you know. But he's smart. I was listening to a podcast with him when I was driving down yesterday. He's a really, really smart guy. So, why was we talking about boxing?
I don't know, but I was
I know. I know. So the coach, the person in my position, the trainer, he's not the guy who gets in the ring and gets beat up or beats somebody else up, yeah? But he brings that out of that person, if that person's got that talent. I actually got into boxing when I was working in London. I watched a bit of boxing on the television. I was working in London and I was near, you know where Holborn is, High Holborn? I was in that area and there was a big yellow place called Gym Box. I thought, I've got loads of weight on me, I'm not fit. I went into this place and I met a boxer there, a lovely, lovely guy called Errol Christie. He's passed away, actually, very unfairly from lung cancer. Never smoked a cigarette in his life, and he gets lung cancer in his 50s or something like that. But he taught me to box, and he was the loveliest guy. And he came from, you know, the Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn era. Yeah, he trained with those guys. And actually, funny story, I met Chris Eubank, the original one, in the Dorchester. Somebody introduced me to him who knew him. A few years ago. This is before Errol passed away. And I said, I've got into boxing fairly recently and my coach is Errol Christie. I believe you know him. And Chris Eubank goes, he was lovely, by the way, him. I thought, well, what a fantastic guy. He goes, yes, he took this tooth out for me. His teeth look pretty good now, though. But yeah, he was a lovely guy. But yeah, so another objection. We've got to come up with 6 core objections before we break off for a bit of lunch or something.
I think it's like maybe I don't need it. So
Need.
For it, yeah.
That whole thing, do you think, I was saying I bought a vacuum cleaner, not because I wanted it, not because this stuff, this and other high-end niche perfumes, it's an experience, isn't it? You know, and you do feel, so I'm not bragging here, please, I'm not saying that, but I feel better dressed in what I'm dressed in than if I was dressed in ordinary black trainers, jeans from M&S and a t-shirt from Primark. You feel better, and I've got this sprayed on me instead of 50 quid bottle from Primark, somewhere like that. You know, you just feel better, and I think that's what you're selling to somebody, is an experience, a lifestyle, and as you said, Rachel, a feeling, you know, about that. You feel good about it.
It's an emotional response, isn't it?
It's very emotional, very, very, very emotional. So, do people really need it? In a way, they do. You know, if you need to feel good about yourself, if you need to feel elevated, if you're that type of person, can you identify then when somebody comes onto the shop floor? Can you identify if something? Would you think I'm your customer?
Yeah.
You would? Yeah. Why?
I think our store's a bit like you never can tell in our store, can you?
we said we wouldn't cherry
Yeah,
pick because
at all.
Where's your store?
Trafford Centre.
Trafford Centre. Yeah, I thought the accent was a little bit north of the border.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like you just never can tell with like at all. Yeah.
There's a lot of money around that area up there, isn't there? Hale, Altrincham. I used to know this guy called John Ryan, who had a Transform Medical Group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do everything, all the aesthetics and that. He was the owner of that, and then he bought Doncaster Rovers as well. I don't know why I'd want to do that, because he was originally from Doncaster, but he lived in Knutsford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think shouldn't judge any customer.
yeah.
For my opinion.
Yeah.
It's happened with me many times at the shop floor. No one giving interest for that woman because she's not dressed well. I go to her and I talk to her, of course, kindly, gently. She bought for me 2 bottles.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Well done. Give him a hand. That is so true, right? I remember years and years and years ago, back in the Doncaster days, hearing of a guy. So this was a guy called Pete Kelly, and Pete Kelly was a coal merchant, right? And he used to come into the pub, black as old Harry, scruffily dressed, and he'd buy everybody a pint if you were in. Back in the day, before everybody used a card or a phone, he would take the most humongous wedge of money out of his pocket. That's another thing about feeling as well. I used to always walk around with loads of money. And I thought to myself recently, I never have any money. Like 100 quid maybe, 50 quid. I used to walk around with 2 or 3 grand always in my pocket, just always. And if I didn't have it, I'd go and get it out of the bank. Nowadays, they arrest you if you got stopped and searched and you've got more than £1,000. They frickin' arrest you and confiscate the money and ask you to ask me how I know. It happened to me. I got it back, but it happened to me. Where's this money? Oh, I took it out of the bank. How did you get it in the bank? You know, unbelievable. You know, so but that made you feel good, having that money. So this is another way, dressing nicely. But you should never judge people, because this guy, Pete Kelly, I remember he went into a car dealership. They didn't know who he was, and he's gone in all scruffy, and they've treated him like crap and ignored him, been rude to him. He could buy the dealership. He could buy all of your houses as well, probably with what he's got in his pocket. So, as you say, you never can tell, you know. Any more objections that you're coming up against? Competition, yeah? Who would you say, I'll just put comp, because I definitely can't spell competition. 100%, no chance. Who's your main competitor then? Would it be Roja? Similar bottle, I've seen that on Instagram. It's a similar bottle, isn't it? So is there a little bit of sort of brand confusion goes on there, do you think? Oh, they're next to you as well, yeah? You're friends with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, you speak to them? Not. Yeah, it's the best way to be, isn't it? You know, definitely. How about Creed? Is that big? So you're there, Roja are there, and Creed are there, yeah? Sort of. Is that in Harrods? Yeah? Love the lapel badges, by the way. Do I get one? I'd love one, yeah.
Really interesting, because like Roja's been taken out of our store because no one bought it at all.
Why do you think they didn't buy it?
No representation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the line, the SKUs all got reduced and then just went.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be just in Harrods.
Yeah. So like,
exclusive to Harrods and the 6th floor apparently.
Yeah, I see.
Because they're doing it in our store as well.
Yeah.
They've reduced all the SKUs and
You
selling
know, I never thought about competition.
Yeah.
I always do my best. Whatever.
How do we, you know what this is, right? Just move on from this, right? This is really what we want to get to. You know what a USP is? Unique selling point or unique sales proposition. So what are your key USPs? Quality?
packaging.
The packaging?
I think people like it's British as well.
Right. Okay. How do they know it's British with a name like Fragrance Du Bois? They ask. Yeah. Is it a British?
And when you say yes, they get more interested.
They get more interested. You would assume it's French, yeah, because it's like smell of wood, isn't it? Translated. Fragrance du bois. Bois is wood, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So when I got into this, when I first met Johnny, I got this. I love the Oud Noir, Oud Jaune. I don't know whether you've seen these. It's like a little, I don't know whether it's real crocodile leather. It's about the size of a laptop. It's a little box, and it looks like patent crocodile leather, and it's got all miniature bottles, about 10 of them in it. Yeah, I would love another one of those, but it just looks so nice. My wife's got it, you see. So, but when I got into that, I got into all the Arga wood as well, and really got into oud. Do you think that the whole oud, so like in my house now, I have oud and patchouli and sandalwood incense, because we got a dog that stinks, bless her, it's a bit old. But we have all these different, they're very based on what is in these perfumes, these notes, yeah, rose or sandalwood, I love sandalwood, patchouli, used to wear that, we were talking about that on the phone, weren't we, about the hippie shops back in the days, you know. So all of that. Argerwood bracelets and stuff. So I'm really into it. Do your customers get into that whole experience about oud and where it comes from, the whole sort of Arabic?
Yeah, they come ask oud, or they ask what the Arabs wearing.
Yeah.
What do you think they are wearing? So
Who'd have thought it? Sorry. So, yeah, who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought you'd be back so soon? Yeah. So, in terms of unique selling points, then, what sets the brand apart? If I said, yeah, you know, I've not heard of you guys before, but you know, and I've used Creed for years and years and years, how would you define the USP of FDB over Creed or over Roja?
give them the story of the brand. I say this is an English brand made all here. The quality, what we are using, the ingredients, how
Yeah.
it is long lasting on your skin, how it is, they call it, people can smell it around you. Projection.
Yeah.
Everything, I give him everything. So always I say selling is not on the spot. Maybe I'll give this information and then he goes and he tried and then he comes again.
Yeah.
So I never lose a customer in the spot. If he didn't buy, I would tell him about the perfume and let him try it and then he would come again. So I'm saving him, you know.
What they call in NLP is seeding. You're sowing the seeds there, yeah? Because
Yeah. Someone is buying, the other one, he doesn't know anything about the brand. I tell him and
Yeah.
then give him a sample or on his hand, then he goes for an hour, 2 hours, and he comes back.
Yeah.
I said, give me one, I like it. So
Fantastic. That quickly, yeah?
yeah, and it happens always.
It's so funny that I don't know what you would call, what psychologists would call it, is that I've done that so many times. I'm on the point of buying something in a department store, and then something stops me from buying it. I go upstairs, and like you say, an hour, 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, blow it, I'll buy it. I did it with something last night online. I did exactly the same thing. It's amazing. But you're sowing the seeds, you know, it's like if you put carrot seeds in the ground, there's a carrot plant, but you don't get carrots straight away. There's a period of time, what we call a gestation period, has to go by. It's not 2 hours either. So, you know, well done. What I was going to say is, I love this. We were talking about this, recognition. So, you know what we were saying earlier about people recognizing you when you go in somewhere, saying, hi, how are you, Steve, or whatever. But what I love is when I've got this on, or one of the others, is when you walk past someone and it's like, what are you wearing? I love that smell. That happened to me only the other day. I absolutely love that. And guess what? I'm your unpaid salesman. I'm telling them all. I say, oh, it's this Fragrance Du Bois. I know the guy who runs it, blah, 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 all of that. I say, and you can buy it in Harrods. They're all over the place. And I give them the website address. I think you owe me some commission. Yeah, with an affiliate code. Yeah, should be.
I think you're passionate about something, which we all are. That's why we're here. That passion then projects onto the customer because you can't help it because it's natural to be.
Yeah.
If you love something, anything, it's going to project. So that
Yeah.
passion is going to go on to them. I know that I say to most every customer, don't blame me once I've sprayed you and people stop you 100 times a day.
What a good line.
I just do it because I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's true. It's true.
But it's that what we mentioned before, and we'll talk again later. It's that transference of feeling. So there's a guy who used to be Tony Robbins' mentor called Jim Rohn. I don't know whether anybody's ever, again, somebody you should follow. Fantastic speaker, another guy who's gone now. But I once heard him say to an audience, he used to speak for Herbalife at their conferences, you know, and he said, I'm going to throw some ideas and philosophies around now. He said, and I want you to take these in and sit there. He says, I don't want you to ask yourselves, is he right? He said, I want you to ask yourselves, is he sincere? Does he mean it? You know, because if you mean it, people, it shows, it comes across. It's invisible, but people do pick that. That's why we call it a transference of feeling. It's your sincerity. You know, well, I do use this myself. I'd buy it for my family, all that sort of stuff. Are we going to break for, yeah? I saw you looking at your watch, you see. That's a thing called intuition. Yeah, project, yeah. We're aligned, Helen. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks very much. See you in a bit.
We're going to have a quick break for lunch. So lunch is downstairs on the first floor. For those of you that were here before, you know where that is. And all dietary requirements have been taken care of. You all right now? Thank you. Right. There you are. Who are we waiting on?
I like it. Is it Charlotte? I like your ink.
Thank you very much.
I was kind of, it's really weird, I was kind of thinking of doing this. I haven't got any. My wife's got some, but I haven't. I was kind of thinking of it. And you know what put me off is my kids started taking the piss, saying maybe having a midlife crisis or something. I know, yeah, I know. I don't know why being in your 50s or 60s is called mid. I mean, glad it is midlife rather than old age. If it's the middle, it means you're going to live to 120.
So maybe that's like 65, maybe that's when I start saying midlife.
Yeah, something like that. I get to Thailand whenever I can. And I like doing Muay Thai training, and it's like tattoos are a religion out there.
What would you add? What would you add?
Probably something about my kids. So my son's called Ziggy, and my daughter's called Pasha. But when she was really small, in a cot, we got her, you know, the piglet from Winnie the Pooh. And I said, I just joked to Dion. I said, you can't tell the difference, can you? You know, because she was a pink baby. So then we nicknamed the piglet. And then my son used to pronounce everything that began with a P. For some reason, he used to put an L in front of the P. So it was Pliglet or Plasher. So I was thinking of zigs and pligs. Something like that, you know? Yes. So we shall see, anyway.
Just for your bag. Lovely.
We'll send the pictures, yeah. Put them up on YouTube and send you all the link, yeah. Are we good to go, guys? Right. I was just thinking to myself, you know, all that drama with the slides and the clicker thing, we've not even used one yet, have we? We've just had that one up. We all had a nice lunch. I've had, I just needed to chill for 10 minutes, and I had my protein shake with about 4 eggs in it, protein powder, a banana, and some raw milk. And that was it. What did you have?
Rice, chicken,
Yeah?
salad.
Yeah? Are we feeling a bit tired, or? No? Okay. What I want you all to do, right, I want to get the energy up. Stand up, please. I'm not joking. Not joking, right. Do as I do, yeah? Do as I do. This is good. Okay, we're going to do 5 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we go the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a good one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this one, this sends savonal fluid up to your brain. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shoulders, shrugs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one, you love this one, okay? You jump up and down. You go slightly, one foot slightly in front of the other, and then you switch it. So you go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. Amazing. I thought I'd do that to you just because you've been, oh, thank you. If ever I get a crash in the afternoon, I'd have 10 minutes, fortunately I work from home most of the time, 10, 15 minutes on the sofa, especially if someone's mowing outside. Ooh, that sound. Yeah, just that hum. And then get up and do some stretches, a little bit of exercise, or maybe go for a run in the field for 10, 15 minutes, and boom, I'm like right back up there again. So, what we got? We've got loads of slides. We've still got some of your questions, and we've got a load of notes. So, ooh, that's not one of our notes, and that's not. So, what I want to talk about is, to start off with, is skills, key core skills in sales when you're dealing with somebody. And to me, the most important one is it's part of communication, but it's a certain facet of communication.
Confidence.
Confidence is good, yeah. Confidence is good, but it's something else. We do it with ease. Listening, yeah. So I want you to get that down. Who agrees with me? Because I'll tell you why. This is so important, right? Because most people never listen to anybody. People, you ever try to have a conversation with somebody and you want someone's attention, and you're trying to, and they're doing that on the phone. They're not there. They're not present. Okay, so the more present that you can be with somebody, the better that rapport building is going to be. But the whole listening thing, I've found this, is that if you really listen to somebody, and if they know you've listened to somebody, I'm going to tell you how to let them know that you've listened to them. Going back to what I said earlier, you raise their level of self-esteem, because hardly anybody listens to anybody, especially nowadays in all this social media stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah? And by the way, they don't go, oh, Charlotte listens to me, I've raised my levels of self-esteem. It doesn't work like that. It just happens like that. And the way, do you want to know the way that you do it? Is you ask somebody a question, yeah? They give you the answer, and your body language, yeah? So you might be like, but you could connect with them, yeah? And then the real magical thing that lets them know is you say something like, so, just so I've not got it wrong, yeah, because I'm a bit slow, whatever, not slept much last night, you're saying, and you paraphrase their answer back to them in your own words, but saying the same thing, and they really know that you've listened to them then, yeah? And then you can do another thing as well, which is called penetrative question. I'm not even going to attempt to spell that word, yeah? Penetrative questioning, which means you go deeper, yeah? So you could, after that, you could say, I get that, you know, you paraphrase your answer, but could you expand on that for me a little bit? Exactly how do you mean? You know, give me a little bit more context around that. Does that make sense? Yeah? But you would be, this is where you're going to do a little bit of work now, and Charlotte, because you're staring at me and we've just been having a little conversation there, tell me, how could we do that in the context of selling perfume to somebody? How would that work?
I think a lot of the time we get asked, people come up to us, they're like, oh, I'm looking for this specific kind of smell, or I'm looking for a fragrance with this specific ingredient in. So we reassure them that when we're showing them fragrances, it has this ingredient or it has this kind of vibe that they're looking for. So it's about listening to what the customer wants and what they're looking for, and taking that in and knowing through our knowledge of our brand and our fragrances what ones we can recommend to them. And then, as you say, just reassure them that, so you said you liked this and that's why I'm showing you this one, or you said you wanted something to smell like this, that's why I'm showing you this fragrance.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, rebounding off of what they're saying to you and being able to kind of swing back at them and say, well, you told me this, so I'm going to show you this.
Yeah, yeah, that whole thing. But if people know you're listening, there's an old rule as well that says you got 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in that order. So if you can be listening 70-80% of the time and speaking the rest of the time, and the rest of the time when you're speaking, usually we want to be asking questions, yeah, rather than so if you get really good at asking, and you'll know better than me, the right questions of people, yeah, and then really good at listening, paraphrasing those back to people, and it was a little bit late, I just thought of this yesterday. So a good friend of mine's a lady called Carol Railton. She's been, I don't know if you've ever seen her, she's been in The Sun, Daily Mail, everything. She's the most wonderful person. I did a podcast interview with her ages ago, and I didn't know her that well then, but I've got to know her. We've never met, by the way. We've done loads of Zooms and phone calls. And she is probably one of the top 5 experts in the world, certainly number 1 in the UK on body language. I mean, they hire her for police cases and stuff like that to read people's body language. I was going to ask her for a top 10 tips, so top 6 or something like that. But we'll do it another time where I'll get them from and I'll send them over to you. Yeah, no problem. She'll do that for me because we're good mates and she's a really, really good person. So, good. Okay. Right. What are all these notes here? Do you know what? I've got to share this with you because sometimes you do not, going back to that feeling thing and that recognition thing, you don't know how important your job is. Do you understand? Yeah? What that could be doing. You don't know what's going on with somebody in their own life and like buying a bottle of perfume that makes them feel good when they might be going through all sorts of crap or whatever like that. Could be the difference that makes a difference. Do you get what I mean? Do you have any examples of that spring to mind?
A lot of the time we get people that come in and say, oh, I've lost my mum or I've lost my grandma and this was her favourite fragrance and, you can't buy it anymore, so I want something that's similar to that. So it's a lot of the time is, as you say, reassuring them and making them feel listened to and that you're taking in everything that they're saying. So it's, again, building that rapport and that connection with them and saying, oh, I know that fragrance and I can recommend this one and this one for you. And it's, just about discovering it with the person, with the customer and going through that kind of journey with them.
Fantastic. When I left Prudential, I stayed there for about a year or so. And I went to work commission only for Citibank, and that was knocking on doors. It was, the prospecting was so different then. It was like looking on the electoral register, finding people who are going to be 18, ringing up, getting the parents on side, selling them a savings plan. But we also did mortgages, and I went round to this couple's house. It was the only, this was the culture. Anyone seen Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah? So, I went from this man from the Prue job in Doncaster, I went to the big city of Sheffield, right? Where Def Leppard are from. Anybody like Def Leppard? So, I went there and I went onto this sales floor and there's about 15, 20 guys in there, all in suits. Bear in mind, my dad was an electrician. I think he earned about 5 or 6 grand a year doing with overtime. My mum was a part-time telephonist. She earned about half of that, yeah? And I walk into this environment of guys talking about Porsches, Rolexes, 5, 10 grand. This is like 1985, yeah? 10 grand, 15, 20 grand a month incomes. And I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. It changed me forever. But it was that sort of culture that my boss said to me one day. He says, how many appointments you got, Quayle? Steve Q stands for Steve Quayle, by the way, but I just shortened it to Q because it's easier to say. Everybody used to say, is it whale? Sorry. So, Q. I thought if Maggie Q, that actress, can do it, I can do it. So, so he's like, how many appointments you got tonight, Quayle? Just one. It's like, don't come back in this office without a signed up proposal form. That's it. You can't come in without making a sale. So it was pretty hardcore. So I went to see these people called Norma and Terry in a place called Armthorpe, just outside of Doncaster. And they had 0 life insurance, and they had a kid, and she got one on the way, another one on the way. And they were just normal, what you'd call back in the day, working class people living in an ex-council house, yeah? And they didn't want to buy any life insurance. A bit like a vacuum cleaner, you don't want to buy life insurance, but it's a distressed purchase. But I couldn't get this over to them that they really should be having some life insurance, you know? And yes, I wanted the commission. Yes, I wanted to go back in with the business the next day, but I really wanted them to have some life insurance as well. So they must have picked up on that. Or it might have been the fact that I stayed till nearly 1 o'clock the next morning. It just wouldn't go. So they signed up, right? A little bit, maybe under duress. They signed up, they gave me a check, 20 quid, whatever, for the first month's premium, and the check cleared and the proposal goes in. And so what I'm supposed to do about a month or 6 weeks later is ring them up when we get their policy documents. They don't send them to them, they send them to the office for us to deliver. Can you guess why? So we can upsell them. But anyway, about 3 weeks later, before I'd got these, I was scratching around for business. And I rang this woman, and she said something, excuse me, she said something very unusual to me when she picked up the phone, something that nobody said to a life insurance salesman. She said, "I'm so glad you've called." Nobody said that to me. And the reason she was so glad that I'd called, this is down to the, you don't know what's going on, the importance, bereavement, that sort of thing, is that I'd been there on the Monday, left very early on the Tuesday morning. Her husband had gone somewhere on his moped on the Thursday. Just 3-4 days later, got hit by a bus, headbutted a lamppost, gone, dead. Right? And I went back to the office the next day so I went round to see her, and I told my boss, and he says, "I don't know whether they'll pay out, not even issued the policy documents yet," but they did. And then like a couple of weeks later, can you imagine this, in 1985, I took a cheque round to her for 40,000 quid, which was great, So you never know what's going on with somebody, and you never know what might happen as well. Let's get into some of these slides with the right clicker. Everything in life is a sale. There was a saying, wasn't there? Do you ever watch Dragon's Den? Yeah, I love that. So it was I used to know one of the guys in there, a guy called Richard Farley. I used to see him down in the south of France a lot. But everything is a sale. Life is a pitch. These are some of the companies that I'm supposed to show you this at the beginning, but I didn't because we just got talking, didn't we? So these are some of the companies that I've worked with. So some of the people I've worked with, which are very interesting, and we'll talk about some of those guys, are Pete Sage, a guy called Jeremy Harbour, teaches people to buy businesses with no money down. I don't know how you do that, because I've not been on his course, but I've done some work with him, done some interviews with him. Siemens, where used to go into Siemens every week for about 2 or 3 months, and we got them up to around about 74% increase in sales. And somebody said to me, "How did you do that?" I said, "Honestly, no idea." But all I did was talk to these guys and get the best out of them, which we're trying to do here today. And of course, I used to be Bob Proctor's, back in the day, lead coach for the Science of Getting Rich. What a guy he was. So he put me on to this. So I've got, just bear with me, should have got these out earlier. Does anybody read books?
Yeah.
What do you read? Don't mean Patricia Cornwell.
No.
Although she's very good. What do you read?
I read all sorts of, well, I'm doing an MBA, so I read a lot of kind of business stuff.
Yeah. Anybody?
Like idiots.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Think and Grow Rich.
Steve's going to have great things.
You mean that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of, has anybody read this?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's kind of what you call the Bible of sales and personal development. Yeah? This book. Do you know the story behind it? How it came about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with Napoleon Hill. You can actually see some old Napoleon Hill book videos on YouTube as well. He was quite a character, that guy. But this quote, it came from this book, and I love this quote. He says, "In times of change," do you think things are changing now? Yeah? Things are changing now so rapidly. I was just saying to somebody earlier as well, that we can all learn from each other. I've got a 23-year-old son who is the stuff, the language, he's speaking in English, but he's speaking in another language when he starts talking about AI. Does anybody really understand about that stuff? You know? Apart from, I just know put a silly prompt into Chat GPT, but he has got an in-depth understanding. So you can always learn from somebody. So somebody could be like brand new on your team. I'm sure they've got something to offer, something that we can all learn from, as well as we learn from the more experienced people as well, if that makes sense. So he said, in times of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, whilst the learned shall find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world which no longer exists. Do you understand what that means? Yeah? Tell me. Because I don't. No, I do. But tell me your interpretation of it, please.
So my interpretation of the people that are continually learning will be able to keep abreast of the changes that are happening, because they'll continue to learn the new things that are coming out, like AI, ChatGPT, etc. But people who feel that they are already learned, they don't feel that they need to learn new things, because they're feeling quite comfortable with their knowledge that they have. And the world shifts, and yes, they've got all that knowledge and experience, but that's no longer relevant or current to what's happening right now.
Absolutely spot on. I remember I set up this business called internet192.com. Does anybody remember dialing 192 to get information? So I was sat with some guys that I'd done businesses with before, and we weren't really doing very much. And we said, this is about 1999, and we said, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know, but it's got to be something based around this internet thing that was .com thing, because it was just all over the newspapers, you know. So we had one of those light bulb eureka moments, and we said, well, we'll set up a directory, because we got online with AOL, and we couldn't work it, we couldn't find anything. So we thought we'll set up a directory, and we thought, well, we'll call it internet192.com. And what was really interesting about that business is it was like Yellow Pages online, yeah? And about 3 or 4 months into it, I got about 10 salespeople on the phones, and I said, how are you doing? And guy said, yeah, I'm really struggling, you know? And I've got one customer, he's considering going with Scoot or Yell. And I said, who are they? I didn't even know that these competitors existed, you know. So we broke every rule in the book with that business, because you're supposed to, if you go to business school, they tell you know your marketplace, know your competition. We didn't, we just set it up blind, willy-nilly. The funny thing about that is another guy was struggling, and I said, right, give me the Yellow Pages. And he got so we were based in Doncaster and Sheffield. I said, give me the Yellow Pages, looked up, and find a company that does, like, you know, display advertising. It was a business called Life of Riley in Nottingham, and they did like corporate events and stag do's and stuff like that. And I rang up and I spoke to this woman there, and make a very long story short, about 5 or 6 months later, I got married to her. And I'm still married to her.
Yay!
So you just never know. So do you guys do, what I'm interested in, and what I always say to salespeople is, before you start your day, what's your thing before you start your day? Do you get there late, in a hurry, or flustered, and just sort of let the day happen? Or do you get yourself anybody into Tony Robbins? Yeah, he talks about this thing all the time, state. You're having a good state. Another way of putting that is maybe a good vibration. Yeah. So you need to, I believe, get yourself into state. Yeah, which is, I've always found in my life that things go up if I get up a bit earlier, if I do a bit of exercise, if instead of having the telly on with all that noise and drama and fake news and that, I listen to Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, somebody like that, just for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You don't have to do 3 hours later. Read a bit of something. It can just be 2 or 3 pages. I find if I do that persistently and consistently, things go well. Things go up. Sales go up. I start to, you all heard of this law of attraction? Yeah? Why do you think that works? Well, it works because we all operate on frequency and energy. Yeah, I think more people, If I'd have said this to you maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you might have been thinking, what is he smoking? You know? But I think more people are aware of it now, yeah? So it's a fact that if you get yourself into a really good state and do this on a consistent and persistent basis, your results will go up. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes or yes? Or yes, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah. And the results, that is results, excuse me, those protein shakes, I leave off and tell you, to give you some gas, but your results, as Proctor used to say, the one thing that never lies in your life is the results you get, whether it's your health, whether it's your relationships, your sales, your business, the results never ever lie, yeah? So that's something to think about, something to focus on. But what they say, have you heard of this one before? It goes P, P, I think there's there's 6 of them. Do you know this one? You'll know this, Helen. P, 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 P. Nobody? No one can fill in the blanks. Okay, here we go. Proper planning. You still don't know this one.
I know they kind of fail to prepare.
Proper planning prevents piss, poor performance. Now that is a really, I mean, I think someone thought that up in around about 1960 or 1970, but it is so true, right? And it's all to do with this thing of getting yourself into state and the preparation that you do, so that when that first customer steps in front of you, you are in state and you're on it, you're on your game. Do you know what I mean? Yeah? Yes, Rachel.
Can I just make a point of that? And I think a lot of this is to do with mindset as well. And I like, you know, when you listen to Tony Robbins, he tells of a story before he made it, who he is. He used to get into state in his car on the way to these speaking gigs and really like hype himself up and just become so like unbelievable that whoever's going to talk to me, I'm just going to be the best person that I'm going to be, and I'm going to give the best performance. But like, I used to knock doors as well, and I used to sell mobile phones, and one of my greatest teachers told me, it doesn't matter who's behind the door, because some people used to tell me to like, F off, I'm cooking the tea. But I'd still go and knock on the next door and go, hi, my name's Rachel, and I think that's that state of mind. So before you go to work, if you've had like a terrible day, or you've not slept because your kids or whatever, you've got to get in that state, and it doesn't matter if you've got customers who are absolutely not very nice people.
Yeah.
You've just got to keep going, and each customer you've got to give that same presence. So
yeah, absolutely. Give her a hand. That is so true. I was going to say earlier, and you paraphrase what I said. So I'll often tell, you know, I used to knock doors in council estates, and I used to get like a two-word answer most of the time, and it wasn't come in. You know, it was something else. But yeah, it's so true. Has anybody got into this guy ever? Neville Goddard? Okay. So he's all about feeling, all about manifestation and stuff. He like predated those guys like Tony Robbins, but really good stuff. The more of this stuff that you can do, I tell you, it works. Like, you know, getting yourself I'm going backwards there. I do beg your pardon. This guy was a wonderful guy, Richard Denny. This is a book that I think you should all read and try and get hold of if you want to take a note. It's basic, but you know what? The basics.
I bought this one.
Selling to Win. Yeah? Do you like the book?
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Because you can turn to a page and just...
It's fantastic. It's good stuff.
Sit and read the book start to finish.
You know what we're talking about earlier, about martial arts and stuff like that? Those experts in that, the things that they practice the most is not all the fancy stuff you might see. They practice the basics, and they drill them again and again and again, so it becomes second nature. Yeah, it becomes habits. Yeah, all behavior is habitual. Yeah, all behavior is habitual. This guy used to say, nothing happens anywhere without some kind of sale first being made. Whether it's me trying to sell my wife on going to Tenerife again, instead of somewhere new and trying it, because I'm a bit of a creature of habit. You know, Wagamama's, I've been going there for 20 years. I've only ever had the chicken katsu. Yeah. Creature of habit, if it's good. Because I'll try something else and I don't like it. I'm like, oh. Do you get that?
Yeah. You could have got the original.
But this guy was just fantastic. I used to have him as a mentor, and I used to meet with him. He'd been in the IOD. Yeah, it's very old school, very old fashioned in there. And I used to spend about 90 minutes with him about, I don't know, every 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes a bit longer. And I'd always pay him like 500, 600, 700 quid for this session. I always give it in cash. Again, thank you very much, my boy. It was like that. It was great. And I said to him one day, after we'd been talking about me, because he used to say, oh, tell me what's going on. He was so engaging, this guy. He's gone now as well, unfortunately. And I said to him, so what's happening with you, Richard? He goes, well, isn't life interesting? I said, go on. So he had an estate in Ibiza. He was a very successful, wealthy guy. He had this estate in Ibiza. He liked boats, you know. And so he got a couple of Sunseekers down there as well. And he said, I went back home last weekend. He said, and out of the blue, my wife tells me of 25 years or whatever, better be careful, I've been married 25 years, she wants a divorce. He said, you could have knocked me over. I said, why do you think that is? So he goes, you know what? He said, I think it's all the if you've ever lived amongst expats, which I have, I've lived in the south of France for 6 years, I've lived down near Marbella for another 6 years, you do sometimes question, would I be friends with these particular people if we were back home? Am I only friends because we have that common thread that we're British? Do you know what I mean? So he said, I think it's our expat friends winding her up, saying, oh, what's Richard up to when he's back in England on these business trips? I mean, look at him, what do you think he was up to? Not much, apart from making money. So he said, so we're getting a divorce. So I see him about 2 or 3 months later, something like that. We have the usual, tell me how it's all going, my boy, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how's it going? How's the divorce thing going? He goes, well, isn't life interesting? I said, yeah, tell me. He goes, it wasn't the expat neighbours. He said his best friend of 30 odd years was sleeping with his missus. And to put the cherry on the cake, they'd absconded to South Africa out of this European jurisdiction with 300 grand of his money out of his bank account. There you go. So, isn't life interesting?
It was for him.
It certainly was, yeah. What a character. So he was great. This guy, this is what you need to get. This is one of the best phrases. You should repeat this to yourself night and day. I'm telling you, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah? Zig Ziglar said that. See, the great thing about doing what I do is most of the information that I share with people is not my own. So I can, which gives me a good license to brag about it. If I'd said that and said, whoa, isn't that fantastic, then I'd look like a bit of a you-know-what. But the thing is, he said it, and it is so true. Have you ever listened to this guy, Zig Ziglar? He is somebody that you should, again, everyone I talk about is dead. Seems to be a bit of a common thread here. But no, Peter Sage isn't. He's very much alive. In fact, he is a lunatic. He's just done this thing last year where he got in a rowing boat with another guy. He lives in Tenerife, and he rowed from the next island from Tenerife. It wasn't Gran Canaria, it was another one. The name escapes me. It's the closest one. And La Gomera, I think it was somewhere like that. And they rowed to Antigua, which I think my geography is not great. It's in the Caribbean, right? So he's rowed in this boat. He documented the whole thing. They'd got the Elon Musk sat nav, you know what I mean, Starlink. And absolutely phenomenal. This guy is he's an adrenaline junkie. He's done like 150 odd skydives, and he actually, first time I ran the London Marathon, he wasn't with me, but he was the one who spurred me on, because I hit about, has anyone done a marathon? Should try it. Honestly. So I'd heard all this thing about, they call hitting the wall, yeah? And I hit the wall at 17 miles, and to compound things and make things worse, the 17-mile point, I could see my hotel from it as well. The temptation to just give up. And two things kept me going, yeah? There was a guy at the side of me who was severely disabled, and he was using, it looked like some little pram or something like that to get round. And he could see that I was in a bad, we're talking a state, I was in a bad state. And he says to me, come on mate, it's not that far. And the other thing I thought about was my friend Peter Sage. He was running that same weekend, he was involved in one in Morocco. Have you heard of this Marathon des Sables? Say again?
Is it through the desert?
It's through the desert, but it's like a marathon on whatever day, like say Monday, another marathon on Tuesday. So you run a marathon a day through the desert in the Sahara in the heat. Have you ever been to the desert out in Dubai or anywhere? It's hot, right? And it's hard to run on sand. But you have to carry all your own kit with you. That's your cooking stuff, your water, your food, everything, your tent, yeah? You have to do that. It's 5 days of doing that. And just to make it interesting, on the middle day, try not to undo that, but on the middle day, you run 2 marathons. You run one in the morning, you get a bit of a rest, and then you run another one in the afternoon. And so he was doing that. And in NLP, they teach you a thing called a contrast frame, which basically means if you've got some crap going on and that there's always somebody worse off, as my mum used to say, you know. And I thought of Pete doing that, and I thought, nah, come on, you wuss, keep going, you know. So it's an interesting thing to do, to run a marathon. So, role play, here's preparation. We've talked about Norma and Terry, knowing the importance of what we do. Deep penetrative questioning. Let's move on to the next slide. Now this is a really, really good saying, and it's one that I made up as well, and I'm happy with this. An attitude of gratitude will bring you far more latitude. What I mean by that, when I said that, is if you can find something to be truly grateful for every day, yeah? In fact, Peter, he writes down, every day he writes down 3 or 4 things that he's grateful for, so that if he's ever going through a bad time, he can get this little book out. He's not like me at all. He's a real stickler for taking notes and keeping journals on everything that he does. But he can go back and see all these things that he's grateful for, and the thing that he's pissed off about or upset about or not feeling that great about pales into insignificance, yeah? So what I mean is having that attitude of gratitude, whether it's for your health, whether it's for your family, whether it's for, you know, working in. Does this feel like a family environment, this work? Doesn't feel like work, does it? No? No? Bob used to say, if you find something to do that you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah? You see? It is work, but it isn't work, yeah? So latitude means it's just going to open up more for you, yeah? I did have on the end of it, an attitude of gratitude will bring you far more latitude, and that is not a platitude. Do you know what platitude is? Yeah? So not a word we hear very often. So that's one of mine. And you start to think of it, I would never have thought of that if I wasn't into personal development and sales. And being in this industry of sales and service, I believe that, have you heard this phrase, selling to serve? No? Say no. 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 Okay, you don't just have to say yes, speak to me. Let's keep the energy up, yeah? So selling to serve is really, it's like, I don't know how to explain this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I see it as me here, and I'm actually observing myself there. Do you know what I mean? I'm sort of stepping outside of myself, and I'm looking at this situation of me and somebody else, and what is my attitude towards that person? Is it purely to make the sale? Is it purely to get the commission? Or going back to the feeling thing and the sincerity thing, do I really want this person to have this thing because it's going to do some good for them? It's going to give them a good experience. It's going to make them feel good about themselves. Make sense? Yeah? And that really is where it's at for me. Okay? And it sets up that whole transference of feeling. Yeah?
Steve, I think that's why, and I know everyone in this room does it, you can tell looking at each consultant's sales what is their favourite fragrance.
Mr. Choppy,
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
That would be
they
it.
introduce it to everyone because they're so passionate about it, because they love that particular fragrance. You know, before you leave today, let me introduce you to this one. This is a real favourite of mine. And because they've got that real genuine passion for it, that definitely comes over to the customer.
It's got to, hasn't it?
It's got to.
Yeah. It's circling back. It always comes back to the same thing, that transference of feeling, that sincerity, you know. Because what you're actually saying to somebody there, they might not like it as much as you do. That's an aside. But what you're actually saying to someone is that I absolutely love this. I feel great when I wear this. I get loads of compliments when I wear this, and I want the same for you.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, right. Books you should read. I really like you guys when you don't have to read them all at once. You don't have to read them, all not all at the same time, but just read little bits, because these are the kind of books. It's not like reading a novel. You can just open it in the middle, and in fact, if you do that, sometimes you come to exactly what you need. Yeah. So there's a book here by that guy I was talking about, Zig Ziglar, called Secrets of Closing the Sale. This is, again, it's along the same lines as the Richard Denny book, Selling to Win. It's what I would call a perennial classic. It's along the lines of Think and Grow Rich, yeah, that sort of thing. But that Zig Ziglar, I'm telling you, if you want to listen to somebody who could speak, that guy was absolutely unbelievable as a motivation speaker, as a sales coach. He was from Texas, somewhere like that, and he got the funniest accent you can imagine. And I don't know about you, Helen, when you've looked at speakers and stuff like that, he was one of these guys that if he wasn't a motivational speaker, he would have made a great preacher or pastor, or a great comedian. He just had that presence and that whole thing going on. So anybody heard of this book, read this book? It's called The Secret.
Yeah.
Yeah? That one.
Yeah.
So the content of this book is very, very similar. I see it as like a blend of some of the stuff that's in Think and Grow Rich, some of the stuff that's in a book which I haven't got it with me, I couldn't find it at home, called The Science of Getting Rich by a guy called Wallace D. Wattles. Anybody read that, heard of that? Easy book to read, You've read it?
Yeah, and we have it in my language also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more easy for me. I read it.
That book had disappeared into obscurity, right, a few years ago. How about this, for an idea? It's not something we're going to do here, obviously, but ideas give you inspiration or seeing what other people do with something, and they get the creative juices going. So Bob Proctor picked up that book, and he really liked the book. So he got somebody to design a fresh jacket for it, and he wrote the foreword to it, but he didn't change anything in the book. And he didn't say he wrote the book either, it was still by the original author. And he went to a recording studio and he read the book in the recording studio, but he didn't just read it verbatim, he explained it. So he'd read a chapter or half a chapter or a few lines, and he'd explain what it means so that you could really assimilate it, because some of this stuff can be a little bit esoteric, yeah? If you know what I mean. He did that, and then he took that out on a seminar tour, and he made, from this little old book that had almost vanished into obscurity, this one idea to freshen it up, write the foreword, record it, explain it, tour it in seminars, made him over $10 million. One little idea like that. And when you have these ideas, right, you've got a choice. You're at like a crossroads. You can either do nothing with it, or you can take action on it and see where it takes you. And a lot of the time, they don't work. Most new ideas that people have don't work. I would bet you £1 to anything that Richard Branson or anybody like him has had more of them go south than the ones that have gone good. It's just you don't hear about those, you know. That's a very good book to read as well. It's not on my list here. Is a book by Richard Branson called Losing My Virginity. Anybody read it? No. Fantastic book. Absolutely fantastic. You like Richard Branson?
Yeah.
Yeah? He seems like a cool guy to me, you know. This is a great book, Bob Proctor's book, You Were Born Rich. So I've got before Bob Proctor died, I did a podcast interview with you. Did I send it you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 90 minutes long. Yeah, if you can share it with everyone, that would be great. But I remembered him saying, when he wrote that book, which was a long time ago, before people were really into this sort of stuff and this philosophy and personal development, he sent it to a publisher. They read it and returned it, and they suggested that he seek psychiatric help. I said, read your book, it's very interesting. Have you ever considered seeing a psychiatrist, you know? And that became, that sold millions. Millions and millions and millions. That book alone made him millions, you know. So it's all about people's perspective. There was some guy, wasn't there, who he turned down the Beatles. Wouldn't sign you guys heard of the Beatles? Yeah? Yeah. Not everybody has, yeah. It's when you get older, the stuff that you think everybody knows about, they don't know about. Yeah. So, but this guy, he turned down the Beatles. He didn't think they had any talent. They only had 40 #1 hits, you know, but he didn't think they had any talent. But he actually, the same guy then, he did sign the Rolling Stones, so I guess he learnt by his mistakes, yeah? So we got Selling to Win by my old friend Richard Denny, God bless him. The Psychology of Selling by this guy that I talked about earlier, Brian Tracy. Again, one of the best books that you could read on sales, you know? Is anybody reading books on sales at the moment? Doing any form of self-education? No? Shame on you. Honestly, if you want to get better and better and better at it, then do you want to get better and better and better at it and make more money, make more commission, move up the ladder, eventually run the company? Yes or yes? Yes. Yeah? Then you won't do it without upgrading your skills all the time. Can you imagine if, let's say, God forbid, right? God forbid, but let's say a really close friend or relative of yours, kid or mum, needed life-saving surgery, brain surgery or heart surgery, right? So I hope it never happens, but let's just suppose. And you went to see a surgeon, and he was a really lovely guy, really lovely old guy, great, what do they say about medical profession? Great bedside manner, yeah? Really charming. And he's about, I don't know, 65, 70 years old or something, very reassuring. And then you said to him, when was the last time you sort of got to grips with the new technology or whatever? And he said, oh, I haven't done anything since I left medical school 50 years ago. How confident would you be in putting your nearest and dearest under the, yeah? You wouldn't, would you? You'd excuse yourself and go and find someone who was a bit more up to date. So it's all about upgrading your skills and keeping in the zone. And the more you do it, it becomes you. You know what I said earlier about all behavior is habitual. If you're thinking about sales all the time, if you're thinking, how can I influence people all the time? There's a lot of, when I started using LinkedIn a few years ago, and I worked very, very hard on it to build up 10K subscribers and all that sort of thing, organic. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I didn't get very much back. And I saw sales coaches on there, and I thought most of them, I thought they were really soft. They didn't talk about these things too much, about influencing. They seemed to be a bit, what's that word? Woke. You understand? And persuasion. If I've spelt it wrong, forgive me, yeah? Do you persuade people to buy? Yeah. Give me an example of that. How would you, if I'm like, Oh, I'm not sorry, I didn't get your name, mate.
Michael.
Michael. Michael, you know. Oh, by the way, do you get people's names when you start talking to them? Yeah? You should. 100%. You should definitely get their names. And don't overuse it, because that looks like you're taking the proverbial, yeah? You know? It's like in NLP, they teach you to match and mirror people. So maybe sit the same way, or you should pick up on the language that people use as well, their patterns of way they speak. And if somebody says a word quite often when you're talking to them, use that word, but not every other word, so it looks like you're mimicking them or being disrespectful. But you should absolutely get people's name, because if you use somebody's name, you know what we were saying earlier about recognition, and when you know somebody, if you use someone's name, it's great. Then they feel so pleased that you've remembered the name, even only 5 or 10 minutes into a conversation. By the way, I meant to ask you, what is you don't have very long, if I set up a Zoom call because I do other stuff called high ticket sales as well. So when we do a Zoom call with somebody, it's usually scheduled for 45 minutes. That's if they turn up. I've got 45 minutes to talk to them, influence them, persuade them, hopefully close them. What would you say is the average pitch time that you've got with a customer on the shop floor? 5 to 10 minutes to get them to part with 500 quid. Yeah? That is a tough job, you know, unless they've come with the intent of buying your brand, or they know your brand, or they're a returning customer. So I would honestly say that the more awareness you can get around this, don't just show up and even be present, but the more you can just do a little bit of homework, maybe 3 or 4 days a week. You know, like say you could live up to this is what medical and sports people say. If you went to the gym or went running or went for a power walk just 3 or 4 times a week and ate a bit healthier, drank a bit less, didn't smoke, you can add like 20 years onto the time that you're here. Yeah? Oh, it's the same with this stuff as well. You don't have to go mad on it like I did when I was personal development junkie back in the 90s, yeah? But if you just do a little bit of it, and then you'll find your own balance, you'll find your own level of where you're at. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah, really. But if you do it, and it will then, you're in that state of what we called earlier, immersion. And all this becomes part of you, and you'll do it as second nature. Yeah? Would you like to be able to do that? Yeah. And you'll start to enjoy it, you know, and if you don't enjoy it, I don't know, stack shelves in Tesco. Just kidding. So that was a book that we read there, or we talked about there, Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Yeah, we've got more, but if you only ever read, what is it there, 6 books. If you only ever read those 6, but once you read, if you get into this and you start reading that, you can probably get most of these on Audible. Anybody do that one? The Amazon thing, you listen to the book. Sometimes it's the author reading it, sometimes it's somebody else, you know, narrating it. Sometimes you can find a lot of these books on YouTube for free. They're on there, they're out of copyright, something like that. There's some really good ones. So go back to people you should follow. We've talked about some of these guys earlier. Zig Ziglar. I think this has got had a red light on it or something. Maybe it has. It has, but it doesn't show up very well. So Zig Ziglar, definitely on YouTube, like I said with Bob Proctor, it's like this. Yeah, of course you can. Thank you. It's like they're still around.
Thank you.
All people, it brings me to this point, all people who are really successful in anything usually have a mentor or a coach. You ever known a professional footballer, boxer, athlete, gymnast, even an actor, singer? They all have a coach, a voice coach, an acting coach, you know? When people like Tom Hardy, when they're not doing Mobland or making an action movie, oftentimes they're having acting lessons. You think, why does Tom Hardy need acting lessons? He's really good, right? You think he's really good? I think he's really good, you know, or whoever else it is. But they're constantly keeping up with things, new techniques, and practicing what they already know, and drilling it and drilling it and drilling it, so it becomes second nature. You ever seen that? It might be a bit old for you, this film. It's got, you know, an actor called Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
Sir Ben Kingsley played Gandhi, right? Well, you know another actor called Ray Winston, plays a gangster all the time. Yeah, that guy, I love him. He's fantastic. And they made this movie in, was it the 90s or 2000s called Sexy Beast?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this film? As well as the books, write down, watch this film, Sexy Beast. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. So Ray Winston plays a retired London, old school London gangster. He was a safecracker, and he's living the life with his money. He's got his villa and his wife and his mates in Marbella, yeah, on the Costa del Crime, where, right? He's living down there, and Ben Kingsley, he comes down to see him because he's still with the London firm of gangsters, and they want to bring him out of retirement to do one job. And Mr. Big, who's played by Ian McShane, who's a real horrible character. They just made a series of it with different actors in. And Ben Kingsley is a horrible, horrible, horrible piece of work in this film. He is he's an enforcer. He's the kind of guy who'd have someone in a basement and torture them and then just go for lunch, not think anything about it. He's absolutely horrible. But before that, he'd played Gandhi. And this is how good these people are. I watched only very recently Ray Winston being interviewed about this film, Sexy Beast. And he said all the cast were together, apart from this nasty, horrible enforcer guy, who's called Don Logan in the film. They'd not found someone to play it. And then the rest of the cast got informed that they'd chosen Ben Kingsley. And they're like, are you having a laugh? Gandhi, to play this guy. He said the first meeting that they had with the production team, he said Ben Kingsley turned up as Don Logan. He didn't turn up as himself and say, right, I'm going to play him like this. He turned up like that. And he never, ever, ever called it method acting. He never got out of that state from the start, from the first meeting, until that film had been made. He turned up as him. Can you believe that?
Lived in the character.
Can you believe, yeah, live in the character. Can you believe what it takes to do that? Who thinks there could be an actor? I've often thought I could, but I don't know. You know what? I don't know. But you think that level of dedication to be able to do that. John Hurt's wife said the same. She said, I've only been married to one man. She said, I've lived with about 30 of them. Because he just stayed in that state.
Even at home?
At home, never came out of it. Once he got the character in the head, the accent they're going to use, the mannerisms, the temperament, is stay in it until job's done. That is a bit of a skill, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody heard of this guy, Grant Cardone? Yeah. Do you like him? Yeah. He's really good. This guy. He is really, really, really good. So he's somebody to follow and watch. My good mate Peter Sage, he's pretty incredible. He runs a thing called the Elite Mentorship Forum. So many of these people put stuff up on YouTube. This is what, back in the day, when I was a personal development junkie, you had to buy all this. You had to buy all the books. You had to buy the cassettes or the CD, and they weren't cheap. They were like 150, 200 pounds for 6 tapes. You know, you remember that, yeah? Nightingale Conan. So much of this, it's all there. There's a whole university of sales psychology, personal development, personal growth, relationships. It's all there for you for free. Do you know what I mean? But we don't always use it. You know, they say about the brain that it's a maximum of like 5% that we use of our brain. Has anybody heard that before? Yeah? And I often think, has anybody got a mobile phone? Just pass me one a second. What's your password? No, I'm just kidding. I often think, if you describe, it's an iPhone, right? If you described what this can do, all the functionality of this phone, what it can do, where it can take you, what you can do with it, and if we could stay here until 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and maybe list all the things that this has replaced. It's replaced by an alarm clock. It's replaced by a clock, buying a watch maybe. It's replaced by a camera. It's replaced by a video, you know, all of this stuff, yeah? Not you, obviously. You've still got a proper one. But if you describe this to somebody way back in 1980 or something like that and said, if you could have a device like that, what would you do with it? And would say, well, I'd be the richest man in the world. If I could get something that fitted in my arse pocket and I could do that with it, I'd be so rich. Yeah? Is everybody who's got a mobile phone so rich? Because they just use it for daft things. They don't use it to its full potential. And we don't use we don't use ourselves to our full potential. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? So we're going to try a bit harder, yeah? It's just little steps though, guys. It's just little steps. You heard of this guy, Jordan Belfort? The Wolf of Wall Street. Has anybody seen that film?
Yeah.
Yeah?
My favourite part of that, and I think it's quite relevant to today's session, is at the very end of the film, you actually see the real Jordan Belfort in action, and he does the thing and he says, "Sell me a pen." And I think in any sales role, I don't know if you do this, Helen, when you interview people, but I think to get an understanding of your salespeople is to say, "Sell me a pen." Because
to get real interviews.
Yeah, because the key thing, what people go, "Well, this is a beautiful pen, this is orange, and this and that," and it's got nothing to do with the pen. The whole principle is asking the questions. What would you like out of a pen, and how would you like a pen to write, and how would you like it to feel, and what colour, and da-da-da-da. So the more questions you ask when you've heard and listened, like you said before, listen to all the answers, then you've collected all the information, so then you can sell them exactly what they've asked for. So that's from Jordan Belfort. At the end of watching that movie, I was like, I'm in sales, I'm going to sell a pen.
Give her a hand. You should be in training. I'm telling you. But it's so true, isn't it? So it's down to that thing of asking, we're just going to get into that in a second, asking questions. The more questions, you ever watch these police shows on the television where they've got a suspect doing a crime, they've got them in the interview room, they've got the tape switched on, suspect's there, his solicitor's there, and there's two coppers. What are the police doing all the time? And they're doing most of the speaking, and all they're doing is asking questions. And the person who asks the questions is the person who's in control of the situation. Does that make sense? Yeah? And the more questions that you can have, we got everyone. Oh, you could follow me as well. I'm on YouTube and stuff like that as well. This is, I want you to really, really get this one, right? Because the reason is that so many of us wrongly think that we're only a success when we hit the goal. Yeah? So I want to get promoted this year. I want to earn X amount, in commission this year, or whatever it might be. It might be a relationship, it could be a health thing, but whatever. But we only think we're a success once we hit it. So this guy, Earl Nightingale, he was probably, him and his business partner, were the founders maybe of the personal development industry. They knew Napoleon Hill, yeah? This is how far this goes back, right? And Bob Proctor, he used to work for this guy for a period of time as vice president of sales. And he said, this is the best definition of success that he'd ever heard, Bob did. And it was, what Earl Nightingale said. And he said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Let me break that down for you. Well, actually, before I break it down for you and tell you what it really means, does anybody want to have a go? Is that a no? Rachel?
No, I've talked enough today.
Not at all.
Not at all. You've been fantastic. You've all been fantastic and very kind and welcoming to me. Thank you. What it means, right? Let's break it down. The worthy ideal, let's start at the end. The worthy ideal is the thing that you're going for, whether it's the promotion, whether it's more sales, more commission, right? It's the goal, it's the target, thank you, yeah? That is the worthy ideal. Progressive realization means that every day you're moving towards it. And if you're doing that every day without falter, it might take you a month, it might take you 3 months, 6 months, might take you a year, it might take you 5 years. Somebody said a while ago, it took me, I can't remember who it was, someone really famous, really successful. This thing about being an overnight success, he said it took me 5 years to become an overnight success. People don't see what goes on in the background, right? But as long as you are progressively moving, step by step, chipping a bit off, day by day, week by week, month by month, to whatever that goal is, you can already consider yourself, you are acting that way. You can consider yourself a success. Does that make sense and resonate? Yeah? It really does, you know? So that is the de facto best definition of success. And he's another guy, actually. I left him off the list. Earl Nightingale. The first program that I ever bought, and it was partly because it was the cheapest at the time as well. It was 2 cassettes in a box, and it was by this guy, Earl Nightingale. And one of them, he was reading his own shortened rendition of Think and Grow Rich. So he went through all the chapters in Think and Grow Rich and explained it. And the other was a thing called The Strangest Secret, which was his own work, which was really fantastic. And he got an amazing voice. If you want to go to sleep, listen to somebody. I don't mean he's boring, by the way, but he's just got a really deep, resonant, lovely voice, yeah? And this guy here, anybody come across him? No? Again, massive influence on all these people, big influence on Bob Proctor. He used to quote him all the time, yeah? Neville Goddard. And so what he said, this really circles back to a lot of the stuff we've talked about. He used to say, living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Is that a bit deep? No? I thought it was when I first heard it, until I really understood it, and I listened to it again and again and again, and I read it, and I heard other people. So it's assuming the feeling or the state, if you want to be here, that you're already there, acting like those actors do, acting as the person you want to become, whether it's top salesperson, whether it's a manager, whether it's a department head, just acting in that way and imagining yourself in that way. He said something wonderful like, we are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Do you think that's deep? Yeah? That is profound, right? But weakness of attention means maybe we don't do it enough. Maybe we don't pay enough attention to the things that we maybe should be paying attention to. And poverty of imagination means, if you look at all the people who do amazing things and achieve amazing results, and some of them come from the most reduced, hard circumstances you can imagine, but they imagined it and they became it inside before they became it on the outside. Does that make sense? Yeah?
And they've worked hard to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
People say, oh, someone's lucky. But it's funny how the harder you work, the luckier you become.
The harder you work, the luckier you become. The more you do this sort of stuff, as I said, the luckier you become, you know? And luck can be defined. Was it Tony Robbins? He broke down that. I thought it was quite good. He's written some really big books. I don't like reading books. Somebody mentioned that guy Joe Dispenza earlier. Yeah? See, I bought his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Yeah? And I sent it back to Amazon the next day because it was so thick and the writing was that small. I couldn't do it. I got the audio, but I've watched him a lot. I watched him, if you watch him with Good Guy to Follow, Lewis Howes, have you seen him? School of Greatness. He's interviewed Joe Dispenza loads of times. But Tony Robbins, he said, luck is labour under. It's getting worse, my writing. I've got 2 N's in under. Can you have 2 N's? Yeah, you can now. Labour under correct knowledge. I love that. Labour is work under correct knowledge. So that could be product knowledge, knowing your product really well, and then your sales, your interpersonal skills, conversational skills, yeah? And that, the more you do all that, the luckier you will be. Labour under correct knowledge. I think that's a really cool little acronym, that, yeah? And it's in a book of Tony Robbins called Notes from a Friend, which is quite a good little book to read because it's not very long and it's got big print. So where were we? So I saw this guy I was with him in Phoenix, Arizona. The craziest thing about Phoenix, Arizona is you are not that far from Las Vegas, you're not that far from California, and I went to Phoenix, Arizona to do a conference with Bob Proctor for about 10 days. We stayed in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. There's like 50 people at this event, and I flew there from Heathrow. It takes a long time to get there, right? And then I flew back. And about 6 months later, because that's how long it took me to get over the jet lag, I thought, I've just been in Phoenix. Vegas is there. I've never been to Vegas. I've always wanted to go. And I've always wanted to go to California as well, and that's not that far away. But I never went. I just flew straight back. What a crazy thing. But I saw this guy. He's in a room about this size, and he's got about 30 people around the table. And this is when you know that somebody is a master. We talked about that word before, mastery. An absolute master at communication and master of sales, because he walked around the room, he got one of these clickers, and he just talked, and he engaged with people. And if you'd walked into that room, he was there for about 2 hours, there's about 30 people around the table, and if you'd walked into that room at any point, I guarantee you, you would never, ever, ever have said to yourself, this guy's selling something. Never. You never have said this guy's pitching something, trying to get money out of them. All of us signed up for 100 grand for a program. $3 million in 2 hours. And you'd never have known he was pitching. Who'd like to be that good?
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, just so good, you know. And you're happy to do it as well. I got $100,000 for a program.
So can I ask a question then?
Yeah.
So that is a really good point, like what you were saying before. So, you know, we're struggling to sell a £700 fragrance, but you're willing to write, you know, after 2 hours, just right away, 100 grand. Easily and happily. What made you happily just write away 100 grand? Was it the value? Was it how it was sold? What made you buy it?
So, relationship. So a few years before that, a lady called Joyce Webber, a lovely woman, she was trying to recruit me into a network marketing business. Do you know what they are? Yeah? Some people call them pyramid schemes, right? They're not, but that's what people who don't know, people who are ignorant call them. And they used, this company was called Nikken, and a bit like Herbalife had Zig Ziglar as all their big events, Jim Rohn, as their motivational speaker, sales expert to talk to the people. This company had Bob Proctor. And she said, you heard of Bob Proctor? I said, no, never heard of the guy. And I was into all of this big time. It's when I was a proper junkie for it. And she said, well, have a listen to this. And she gave me this tape that had been copied and copied and copied and copied. And I stuck it in the car, and I'm like, boom! This guy, it hit me. And then, you know, about a year, so I bought some of his programs, and then about a year later, do you remember Sunday Times, when it used to be a big broadsheet, and it used to have that business to business section in it? And in business opportunities, there was a little lineage advert. It said, Bob Proctor, Science of Getting Rich, become a coach with Bob Proctor. And it was only very small, and most people it wouldn't have meant nothing, but that leapt off the page to me, and that's how I got to know him. And I spent like weeks and weeks with him in England. We used to come over here all the time. He used to fly over here from Toronto, like most people get in a cab to go. You think nothing of it. He always used to say, you ride in the front of the plane, you ride in the back of the car. You get what that means, right? You know. And it was so funny because like the second time I'd just got a new S-Class Mercedes, and we went to this place to do this like weekend second training and conference with him down near Southampton. And I pulled up, and it was a nice sunny day like today, and he was outside, shirt sleeves rolled up, talking with some people. And it's really funny when you hear someone with a North American accent. He gave me a big hug. He goes, hello, mate. It's really funny when somebody does that. And I'd just like worked like buggery to get this car, and he was telling me how the company his wife worked for, which was a Nikken. She's a master saleswoman, master recruiter. They'd just given her a car for doing so well. I'd paid 110 grand for the car. They'd given one just like it to her, you know. So there you go. But yeah, $3 million sale in an hour, 2 hours, you know, pretty amazing. So this is something as well, you want to think about this, about he used to say your value in the marketplace. So think of the marketplace as being the perfume business, yeah? Think of it as being Fragrance Du Bois. Your value to the company, to your customers, and to yourself depends on those three things. This should be transitioned. I don't know why it's not working. So the first thing that should pop up is what you do, right? How important is what you do? Well, to some people who love perfume and love to feel good and love the whole experience we've talked about, it's really important. Not to everybody, because everything is not for everybody, is it? Yeah? So your value depends on what you do. And then what we've just been talking about, the level at which you can do it, your ability to do it. So we could say, on the one hand, anyone can sell a bottle of perfume, yeah? But then some people can do it really, really well, right? And who's been in the industry for a long time? Yeah? Have you seen people in the industry who come and go? Seen people who stay, but they just do okay? And you've seen people, for some reason, they go like that. You've seen that, yeah? Well, that's all this stuff, right? So the level at which you can do it, and how difficult would it be to replace you? Does that resonate, guys? Yes, Steve!
Yes, Steve.
I love it. Honestly, I love it. So, questions. We touched on this already, but we're going to get back on it. So we call this 5 bums on a goalpost. I couldn't find any rounded, but this is a rugby goalpost or an American football a goalpost, and that's 5 people sat on it like that, right? 5 bums on a goalpost. Can you guess what they mean?
Who, what, where, where?
The who, the what, the where, the why, the how. So these are key questions, right, that you can be asking people. They are also, what type of questions are they? Open, thank you. Open questions. What is an open question?
You can't say yes or no.
A question that just won't get a monosyllabic, a yes or a no. It's hard to say that word when you type. Right, so let's just work at this for 2 minutes, yeah? How could we integrate this into what we're doing? Who are you buying the perfume for? Are you buying it for yourself? Yeah, are you buying it for a friend? Are you buying it, yeah? Who, yeah? Give me an example of the what.
What kind of smell you like?
What type of smell do you really like? Yeah. What type of, have you, that should be up there actually, have you ever used Fragrance Du Bois before? And so the guy says, no, I haven't, I've not heard of you before. So you could say, well, whose perfume do you, or what brands do you use? Oh, I use Creed, I use Roja, yeah, for example, yeah. But these are all things to get the person talking, yeah. And you know what we were saying earlier about the penetrative questioning, just going deeper and deeper and deeper. Have you ever been, I want you to think of, anybody got kids? Yeah? Think of a school run perhaps, or you know, if you haven't got kids, where you drive into a shop that's maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes away that you go, somewhere you go regularly to, and you feel that journey, that 30 minutes, you can experience it now. I mean, have you ever gone on that journey and you've arrived at school and you thought, yeah, I'm here already, I didn't, yeah? Well, what you've probably been thinking about something, or maybe hopefully listening to Tony Robbins or someone like that in your car, right, educating yourself, but you've been in a slightly hypnotic state. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. You're still driving safely, and that's why it's called time distortion. In fact, I wrote a little book called Time Distortion Selling. I've never actually published it yet. Yeah, it's all about that phenomenon of where's the time gone. And so when you say you got 5 or 10 minutes with somebody, I've often said to people on the phone, I'll only keep you for 5 minutes. Guess what? 2 hours later, we're still on the phone. Yeah, because we've got into a deep conversation. But it's not usually me talking about me or the product so much. It's me getting them to talk about them, their wants, beliefs and needs. Make sense? Yeah? So if you can get really, really good with these and then do the penetrative question as well, you'll be able to pitch people for longer. You'll be able to have their attention for longer. And the longer, this applies whether you're on the phone or whether you're face-to-face in a retail situation, the longer you can keep someone engaged, the chances go up that you're going to get a sale, yeah?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yes, Steve.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Steve.
So OPDS, this is something that I learned from Richard Denny, and he called it your opening prime desire statement. Does anybody care to give me their definition, or what's your perception of what that means?
The hook that you get a customer.
The hook, yeah, perfect, the hook. What do you say to get that? And I haven't got the answer, by the way, because I don't sell perfume day in, day out on the shop floor in Harrods or Selfridges, yeah? But if I was doing, I would be brainstorming with myself, and I'd be brainstorming with my colleagues, and I'd be testing this stuff all the time as to what works best to get someone's attention and get them into that little bit of space that I've got and start spraying them with perfume and selling them. Make sense? Yeah? What can you say? So I would really encourage you to brainstorm, not now, you can if you want for a moment, but really brainstorm that, because the more you practice this and the more you get in it, the better you'll get at it, and it'll become second nature. So have a little think about what your opening prime desire statement could be when you meet somebody. Yeah? How do you recognize, I didn't even get all of these on the list, and my son put that up as a joke, passenger, right? But, because I said driver, because he did these canvas for me. But how do you recognize very quickly, this is a key skill in selling, to recognize the type of personality that you're speaking to, so that you can, like I said before, you know, I talked about mirroring and matching, yeah? So we don't want to do it to the extent where we're perceived to be taking the mickey, mimicking them, but we want to do it where they feel, well, this person's pretty much like me. People buy from people they like. People like people who they perceive to be a bit like them. Make sense? Yeah? So how do you go around about recognizing if somebody's introvert? Could it be from their body language? Maybe. Yeah? What else?
How they speak, the speed of which they speak.
The tonality.
If they're quiet.
Yeah. Have you noticed with some people they have a real problem with eye contact? They're all the time. They don't like to, you know. What else? How else would you identify someone who's got an introverted personality?
I'm closed off.
Yeah, it's harder to find out stuff. Well, it's not harder because we're great at what we do. But
Sure, but some people, they won't. I tell you what, dude, just reminded me of something, right? A bit ago, a few months ago, I went to Leeds, and I was going to an event there, yeah, at a club. And you know when you come out the lift from your room, I was with my wife, you come out the lift and we're going into the bar in the hotel. Guy and his wife come out the bar and you almost bump into them and you go, sorry, and they go, sorry, all that bullshit, yeah. And anyway, that was that. Anyway, we got to this event and they were there by coincidence, you know. And I says to the guy, I think he was in the loos or just coming out of the loos, I goes, I saw you earlier at the hotel. He goes, oh yeah. I said, whereabouts you from then? He goes, the hotel. That was code for that, wasn't it? No more conversation with him. Absolutely fantastic. But hey, I didn't know at the time. We're having a laugh about that now, so he's done me a big favour by being antisocial with me. Yeah? Thought he was going to hit me, honestly. So how do we recognise an extrovert? How does an extrovert person? Incidentally, by the way, you know a lot of those actors and pop stars and people like that, a lot of them are actually, you wouldn't believe it, introvert. But they step out of it and they become this other persona. And that's a good lesson for us to learn, because everybody has different I mean, you're not the same at work as you are with your kids at home. You're not the same when you're just with your spouse as you are when you're in family mode. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to step out of that and become this mega knowledgeable, mega charismatic and superstar perfume salesperson. Make sense, yeah? So how would we recognise extroverted personality?
Sometimes it's like the way they're dressed as well. But although we said earlier we shouldn't do that, but
Never judge a book by its cover. I tell you what, I've judged plenty of books by the cover and they've been really good. I have. Honestly, I have judged books, and you remember when you used to go in the record shop? I've judged LPs by the cover as well. Never heard of the artist, took them home, absolutely loved it. Sometimes a bit crap, but it's just the luck of a draw, isn't it? So how else do we recognise somebody? Maybe they dress flamboyantly, yeah?
And in the meantime, to keep your smile, your face positive.
Yeah. Say that again.
To keep your face and keep your smile, keep your face as a positive.
Yeah, and also in their body language. So an extroverted person, unless he's having a bad day, he is not going to walk like closed off like that. You know, the body language.
Extroverts tend to use their hands a lot.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So extrovert type people. Yeah. But I tell you what though, that body language is so powerful. I used to do an event, actually at the hotel that I'm staying at that I was telling you about, but it used to be called the Kensington Close Hotel back in the day, just round the corner from Kensington Tube Station. And we used to get about 100 to 150 people in the audience at this event, and me and a couple of other guys would speak. And some of them were people who came back every week. It was a sales network marketing business, and you know, we would encourage them to bring new people to sign up as well. Some didn't. But there was one woman who came every week. I can see her. This is in about 1995, so it's a while ago, right? But I can see her as clearly as I can see you in my mind's eye. And she used to sit in that corner. But you know, you got the gangway there, and you got two lots of chairs and the doors at the back. She used to sit on that chair there every week. No one else was allowed to sit on that chair, and she used to sit there like that, with her legs crossed and her arms crossed, and she had this, don't know, like that look that Deborah Meaden has on Dragon's Den, when she's like that. And honestly, I used to. I like speaking in public. Yeah, I don't know whether you picked that one up, but it used to make me feel cringe, and it used to make my stomach tight. Have you ever experienced that with the way somebody is with you? You ever experienced that anxiety, the way someone is with you? Well, if you turn that around and think, you could make somebody feel that bad, or you can make somebody feel that good. Makes sense, yeah? So you've got to be mindful of that all the time. A driver, usually a driver is somewhere between an extrovert, an introvert, and an extrovert. It's somebody who is not overtly confident, doesn't tell the word they're confident, but they're very certain about themselves. They're very grounded, yeah? And they're sometimes probably the hardest people to sell to, this type of person, because this is a person who's probably not going to let you, Charlotte, take control of the conversation. You're going to have a job to take control of the conversation if you're talking to somebody of that personality. Okay. Yes.
It's a good point to break for a quick coffee. We've
got
coffee outside. If everyone wants to grab just a coffee and then bring it back into the room, we can start back up again.
Yeah. What? We've got to go for about another half an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah. Finish your.
5, 10 minutes. Bring the coffee back into the room for sure.
I'd love some coffee. Yeah.
I'll get you another coffee.
Thank you.
Just grab coffee. There's cookies out there. The served just in case we've not eaten enough. And are you hungry, Lacey? Good. Okay. Do that. Just back here in 5 minutes.
Perfect.
I'm coming. I have to walk.
Thank you.
Huh?
Calls, but it's basically the same for this as well. When you're selling something, you need 3 key things, right? You need the person to turn up. That helps, so you're not talking to yourself, right? They need to have the desire. You know, they need to kind of want what it is to a degree. Then it's our job to influence, explain, and persuade, yeah? And then we need to have the ability. They need to have the money in the pocket, or the money, the card that will clear, yeah? But desire is, and I've not read it for a long time, it's one of the chapters in this book is all about desire. So if we spin that round from the customer having the desire to you guys, you need to have the desire to be the best version of yourselves, the best salesperson you can, the best communicator, yeah? And in a way, if somebody is maybe needing to get out and get a new relation. I'm trying to think of things here that apply to this, that need to get a new relationship, or they've been through some crap and they need to rejuvenate their self-confidence. Do you think a fantastic niche luxury perfume could help them do that? Yeah, of course it could. Just the same as a nice suit or clothes or something like that. So you need to develop your desire to be the best communicator and the best at doing that, yeah? This is a real big one for me, because I am very, very easily distracted. Yeah, is anybody here easily distracted? Yeah, but customers can be easily distracted as well. So we need to find a better way and be more effective at engaging people. Have you ever just been, this has happened to me loads of times, whether I've been face to face or on the phone selling different things. I've just about been able to close it and someone's phone rings, or the kids clamoring for their attention, some distraction, and you just totally lose the moment. Has it ever happened to you? And you,
The ground floor, when we are selling, I'm just about paying, another customer come interfere. Can you give me this? And the other one goes back.
really?
Yeah, so it happens sometimes like this.
That's what we call frustrating. Yeah. Or something else. Yeah, so be mindful of that, but also be mindful of becoming distracted. You're distracted from your purpose, yeah? Because these things, in fact, I talked about him earlier, Peter, he turned all of the notifications off on his phone and he set Google up. So I go on my Google now, and I did see that. My daughter moved out fairly recently, and he's gone now. Took my cat. Well, it was her cat. She took him, but he had a sleepover for a couple of days. The other day he came back. Call him Scampy. Yeah, if you go on Google now, my Google, just comes up with all the stuff that I'm interested in. So he's completely set it up so that all he sees is that search bar. There's nothing to distract him. There's no notifications coming in. It's on silent. And he has certain times of day when he goes to it to check emails, to check telegrams, to check, So you just see everybody now. They're just on these phones all the time. And they're a great thing, but there's a double-edged sword. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what living in a world of polarity is? There's opposites, right? There's good and bad in everything. If there couldn't be good, there couldn't be bad, vice versa, yeah? So beware of being distracted and trying to keep your customers engaged so they don't get distracted, especially at closing point or paying point, yeah? So this word here, discipline, when I first heard Jim Rohn talk about discipline, because I used to get disciplined at school, as I've told you, yeah? In a different way to kids get disciplined now. That had a negative connotation to me, but actually, discipline is one of those things. If you can discipline yourself to be able to, or Bob Proctor used to say, discipline, basically, if a disciplined person is somebody who can give themselves an instruction and then follow it through. I think that's a wonderful explanation of discipline. So if you now, when you go away from here, if you say to yourself, right, I am going to read those books. I am going to change these habits. I am going to listen to look a bit of that on YouTube instead of scrolling, whatever it is, hair and makeup or boxing or whatever it is on Instagram. I'm going to look at people who talk about sales, who talk about communication, and relationships is a good one as well, yeah, because we're in the relationship business here, yeah. But if you can discipline yourself to do that, when we go up here to determination, is how much do you want it? All these things link together. If you're absolutely determined to be the best version of yourself and to be the best salesperson and to go up through the ranks and be the best you can in this company, you've got to be bloody determined, because guess what? You've got competition. You've got other people who want it just as much as you do, or even maybe more than you do. Yeah? And that can be the difference that makes a difference. And decision. So there's two things about decision, just to talk about briefly here. One of them is you need to make the decision to do what we've just been talking about there, to be the best version of yourself and to study this stuff and just to get better and better and better and serve more customers, yeah? Has anybody read the Bible ever? Yeah, I'm not being all religious on you, but there's one bit, and I can't even quote the chapter and verse. I heard somebody else said this, but it said the student asked the master, so I presume that was, somebody asking Jesus how to get rich. And he just said, find a way to serve the many. And if you look at whether you like these people or whether everybody's maybe got a sinister side, I'd talk about, there's a load of unpleasant stuff about Bill Gates or whatever, but he found with that Microsoft and that was MS-DOS and that Word, he found a way to serve the many. Richard Branson, he found with them record shops and stuff like that. He found a way to serve the many, yeah? And I'm not suggesting that we're going to get as wealthy as those guys. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? But if you want to do better in this business, make more commission and rise up through the ranks and get the respect of the management and whatnot, yeah? Find a way to serve more people, yeah? Does that make sense, yeah? Sell to serve rather than just for your pocket, yeah? But the other thing about this decision is when we got customer in front of us, we want to say things with our body language, with our eyes and our words to influence that person to make a decision to buy. Thank you. Yeah, a buying decision. Yeah, and there's a reason. Decision is, do you know what? People don't like making decisions in a hurry. Do you know why people don't like making decisions? Confidence. Is it the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? Oh God, what's going to happen? Thinking about the money. Anything else?
It's like self-sabotage, is it? Like, especially with luxury fragrances that cost a lot of money. Do I really need this? Should I treat myself because have I done enough?
Justification.
That's it, to justify it.
Yeah. I know. I think, should I spend that 500 quid on myself? Or am I being selfish? You know, a lot of that is to do with people's conditioning, how they were brought up. Did you know that we talk about relationships and we just think about maybe our relationship as friends or acquaintances or relationship with a spouse or kids, but we have a relationship with money. Do you understand? Yeah, we have a relationship with relationships. We have a relationship with food. I used to have a really bad relationship with food, That's why I didn't come down and eat down there. And I've changed it, And now, so there's a fish and chip shop in a village called Misterton near me. I used to love going in there, sitting in the cafe next door. I'd order the biggest one, the biggest chips, 2 lots of mushy peas, scraps, the whole thing. I go past there in the car on my motorcycle now, and I have changed my identity around food so much that if I cop for a whiff of that, it really does. I couldn't get in there fast enough a couple of years ago. Can you imagine? So that is a relationship. And I remember, say again? Discipline. But I remember when I first went to work for Citibank, I went, we're talking about knocking on those doors, hearing 2 words, yeah? Well, I knocked on a lot of doors, and in 1985, the first check, I always remember this, it was like that old-fashioned green and white computer printout paper, and it had a commission statement on it and a check, and for some reason there was 2 checks, but they totaled about 5.5 grand that I'd made in my first month in 1985, which wasn't bad for knocking on doors and getting people to sign up to buy life insurance. So you bear in mind, I told you, my dad worked 6 and 7 days a week as an electrician in a tractor factory for about 5 or 6 grand a year. And my parents, they told me that if you don't do well at school, you'll end up sweeping the roads. Has anyone heard words to that effect before? School teaches you 2 things. I'm not slagging it off, but it teaches you how to pass exams and work for other people. Yeah. That's the thing that Pete says, I credit him with that, and it's really true. So I get home, I should have actually put the check straight in the bank because I really needed the money, but I wanted my parents to be proud of me. So I went home and had dinner with my parents, and I waited till dinner had finished, and then I said, look, that's what I've made this month, and I put this on the table. I expected them to be, well, let's go to the pub. My father just looked at me like, I talk about a look of contempt. Never seen anything like it. And just picked the dishes up, goes out the room to take them into the kitchen. And my mother, she's like, not tears of joy, I might add. She said, what are you involved in? What are you, it's like I'm involved in some sort of criminal enterprise. You could argue that selling life insurance, yeah, but do you know what I mean? And it's purely because of the condition, because I remember she used to say, we used to take my grandma home and we'd drive past all the big houses and I'm a little boy in the back. And I'd say, oh, is that a Rolls Royce, Mum? Look at that big house. You know, I'm like 8, 9 years old. And she'd say, it'd be like my dad used to say, there'll be bloody crooks. That's what drilled into people, you know. And so she had a bad relationship with money. So some people will have a bad relationship with money. And even though they can afford it, they'll be guilty about spending £500 or £600 on that. There's a feeling of guilt or shame. Crazy, isn't it? We think about that. But it's true. I tell you, people are weird.
On average, we're selling maybe 2 or 4 units a day. Do you think it's possible to sell 10 or 15? Like, no, if I said to you, you're going to go to work tomorrow and sell 15 a day, you'd be like, unlikely. But that's because we're limiting ourselves by our own imagination. Why can't we sell 15 in one day? Every day? So it's like we put our own limit to ourselves. So I think, you know, why not just every day go, okay, I'm going to work, I'm going to smash it, I'm going to do 20 tomorrow.
Yes! It's funny you should say that, because by a pure coincidence, if there is such a thing, these are great books. They're easy to read. The Prince book, they're small. They're all in one big book, but they've been broken down. What's he talking about there? An awakened imagination. This is the guy who said you paraphrased what we said earlier, we are limited by weakness of attention was one part of the saying. And then the second part was poverty of imagination, which means we daren't dream big. We can't imagine ourselves selling 20 bottles in the day. Is one bottle 1 unit? Is that what yeah. You just can't imagine it. Has anybody ever done that in the company? Has anyone sold in double figures in the day? Yeah? So that means it's possible, right? You know, when that guy, and I can't remember the year, but all motivational speakers and gurus, they all talk about this, and it's a good thing to talk about. He was called Roger Bannister. He was the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes, right? Up until then, millions of people had tried it, Olympic athletes, the best of the best, they'd all failed. When he did it, they were doing it like that. It's true. Same as climbing Everest as well. That Edmund Hillary, I think he did it in 1953. The year before he tried and failed. The year before that he tried and failed. After 1953, he was the first person to get up there alive and come back down. Loads had died trying. And then all of a sudden people are, you know, climbing Everest. I wouldn't say willy-nilly, because it's not an easy thing to do, but people are doing it because somebody's proved it's possible. You see? It's called social proof. So there we go, 5D principles, magic words, here we go. So we're going to wrap up. We all right for another 10 minutes or so? Yeah, we said about 4 o'clock, didn't we? Yeah. So this was supposed to come up. Something's gone very funny with my technology today, guys. But this was supposed to come up into transitions. So the first word we're going to deal with here is aspirations, yeah? And this is for you to think about for yourself and for your customers as well. What's another word for an aspiration? A dream, a goal, something that you could actually have ambitions there. Yeah, you could have that word there, yeah? So what do you aspire to become? Or moreover, who do you aspire to become, yeah? The next word is training. I think we've already talked about this in a lot of depth, about training not just as a team, you can train yourself. So now with YouTube and all these people on there, like he's on a lot actually, it's called The Wolf's Den, Jordan Belfort. We were talking about him earlier, yeah? So You can go and get sales tips off him. You can go and get sales tips off Grant Cardone, off Brian Tracy, off Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. In fact, your mobile phone can be a university. They used to say you turn your car into a university with the tapes, and the mobile phone, it's in the back pocket of your jeans. So listen to it on the train or on the bus or in the car, something like that. But just keep training and upgrading yourself all the time, yeah? And teamwork. Do we work as a team?
Yeah.
Are we very much team, family oriented? Yeah. Have you seen this one? Have you seen that? You fill in the blanks, you know it? Together, forever and ever and ever. You don't want to hear me sing, honestly. Someone paid me an amazing compliment earlier. Said, when you came in, you look like a rock star. I said, you won't want to hear me sing, honestly. Together, everyone achieves more. So if we work openly and transparently as a team, so the best example I can give you of that is if you know, we're talking about opening prime desire statement earlier. So if one of you around this table comes up with the absolute dogs, the best opening prime desire statement, don't be furtive about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with the team. Say, everyone I approach, when I say this, they engage with me and my sales have gone up. Because why not? It's no skin off your nose. You know. Have you? Yeah.
They share good practice and good news in that Facebook family page.
I'm very pleased to hear it. It's a good thing to do, though, you know, and it's what you should do. But all too often, in a lot of organisations, people are secretive and furtive about it, and they don't want to share their successes how they want to brag about their successes and give it the big one, you know, but they don't want to tell their colleagues how they got there because they want to be above them. That's a bad attitude. Yeah, it's a really, really bad attitude, yeah? So teamwork, yeah? And then the next one on there was initiative. This is, I don't know about you, but I think that initiative is an ever-increasingly rare commodity nowadays. Do you know what I mean by initiative? Thinking for yourself, thinking out of the box, thinking spontaneously, you know? People don't have any real initiative, and that can be like, and it's, I think people have been dumbed down over the years. I really do. You know, if you go into, I don't really go in pubs anymore, but let's take Wetherspoons, for example. You go in there night after night after night. They don't give you any recognition, don't even so, hello, or don't even bother to ask you what your name is, I mean, call you your name. But the worst example of it is, you go in there, this is in the days where we used to use cash more than we do now, and that guy, he serves Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he might sell several thousand pints of Kronenbourg, 1664, yeah? So I have a pint of Kronenbourg, 1664, please, mate. Got a load of shrapnel in my pocket. Get rid of this change, it's weighing me down. How much is it? He don't know the answer. He's got to go back to that thing and go, ooh. You know, like Tommy on Come Fly With Me, bugger. You seen that, yeah? They don't know the answer. There's no initiative. You'd think if you sold several thousand pints of this drink every single weekend, you'd think you know how much it was, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Or is it me? Yes. Okay. Understanding. Two things about understanding, right? Understanding ourselves, understanding the level we're at, understanding what we need to do, understanding where we need to go. But moreover, understanding your customer. Understanding what vibration they're in, understanding what's going on with them, yeah? And I know you've only got a very limited window in which to do it, but the more that you can understand, what's that saying? Before you seek to be understood, understand, something like that. But basically means put yourself in the other person's shoes, understand where they're at, emotionally, financially, need-wise, what they're looking for, yeah? Understanding. And then get them to make a decision. Okay, and do it with enthusiasm. And you might see, and by the way, when I say enthusiasm, I don't mean fake enthusiasm. That is actually the worst thing that any of us could do. I mean sincere enthusiasm, yeah? And we should be if we've done, you know when you've done a good job, right? You know when you've taken someone from zero, not much interest, never heard about the brand before, never tried it before, got an allegiance to another brand, and you've actually got them to spend some money, and then they come back to you another time. Oh, I'm so glad I bought that. You ever had that happen? How does that make you feel? Yeah? Makes you feel great. So your enthusiasm is genuine. It's not fake or made up. Yeah? And all these were supposed to be in bold, and you can see you've got a word down there that says attitude. Can you see that? I made that up. Isn't that clever? Attitude. Thank you. But that's what it is. It all encompasses, and a lot more, by the way, but that was just a nice way of putting it so that you've got attitude there. And if you go here, you can see, and again, this is supposed to build up, but A is the first letter of the alphabet, T is the 20th, that's the 9th, that's the 20th still, U is the 21st because it follows T, D is the 4th, and E is the 5th, and trust me, even if you're bad at maths, like me, if you add all that up, it adds up to 100. I know, you see. Ah, can we stay long? I love it. Well, I love it when people clap for me. Okay, moving on, because I know we've not got much time left, yeah? So we've got some words to begin with C here, yeah? Charisma. How would you define charisma? Again, it's about being sincere, but be charming, yeah? My mother always said to me, because I used to have a real bad attitude as a kid, she'd say, try and be a bit more charming, will you? You know, just be pleasant, yeah? But be sincere. Conviction, a deep belief in yourself, a deep belief in your ability, a deep belief that you're going to help someone solve it, you're going to solve a problem, and belief in the product speaks for itself, or smells for itself, doesn't speak, does it? But connection, get on the same wavelength as people, align with people. I'm going to run through these quickly, yeah? Eye contact, gestures, body language, like super, super important. I do a lot of work on the phone, but this is more important now because people are switching to Zoom and stuff. So you've got to have eye contact. Do you like the smell of that? Yeah. Which one is it? Oh yeah, fantastic. I like that patchouli one as well. And congruency. So congruent means that everything is lined up, yeah? Everything is good. Your dress, the way you speak, the way you articulate, your body language, your product knowledge, your sales skills, be congruent, yeah? If you want to learn a lot about that word, read some of Tony Robbins' stuff. He goes real deep into congruency, yeah? And commitment. Just be committed to being the absolute best that you can. Is that a deal? Committed to selling the most, serving the most, being the best you can in the company, being the best friend and mate to your colleagues, the best inspiration to your colleagues, the whole thing, but commitment. So what I want to do is just finish with a quick little story on commitment. I've not told this for ages, so I hope I get it right, but I want you to sort of look into your imagination and think of like some town in New Mexico, something like that, somewhere very sort of deserty, like in cowboy times back in the day. And there was this awful, awful drought, yeah? It didn't rain for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And all the animals were dying, the plants were dying, people were thirsty, going without food, getting really thin. And one day, this priest in this village, he goes, we ain't going to do this anymore. We're going to make it rain. So he stood up on a hill and he got all the village gathered round. He said, you know what? He said, next week we're going to come here and by the power of prayer, we're going to make it rain. He said, but in order to do that, we need more of us. We need this energy. You see? We need this energy. He says, so I want you to go into all the neighboring villages and I want you to bring people, friends, family, anybody. He said, drag them here, kicking and screaming. So we're going to have thousands here. So off they went. And they came back a week later. And some of them, you know, this is before cars. Yeah, this is horse and carts. But they weren't. So some of them didn't even have horses. So they had to walk there in this heat, hungry and thirsty. Some of them didn't even have shoes. And they got there, this massive sacrifice. And they got there, thousands of them. And this priest stood up on the hill and he goes, Wow. He said, I'm blown away. He said, I can't believe it. Wow. So many of you. And they're all there, waiting to hear him give the prayer. And when he looked at him and he dropped the bombshell, he said, but it ain't going to rain today. Can you imagine? It's like, sound of consternation, almost booing. And one guy stood up and he says, but Father, he says, look, there's thousands of us. We've walked 10, 15, 20 miles, some of us, with no feet, shoes, feet, horses. How can you say it ain't going to rain? He says, because not one of you is actually fully, sincerely committed to the idea of it raining. He says, how can you say that? It's because not one of you's brought an umbrella. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. You wondered what the umbrella was for, yeah.